Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell. Adriana was spinning in front of the mirror, trying on a new dress. It was the one she would wear on her date tonight. She could already imagine how Stephen would look at her when he saw it. "Mom, it's a gorgeous dress. I'm glad we bought it after all. It really looks good on you, daughter. By the way, I got myself a suit too, so I'll wear it to work tomorrow. And you don't stay up too long today, or I'll wake you up again and you'll be cranky." "Well, you know how much I hate getting up in the morning." "I know, because you go to bed late and you don't get enough sleep. You can't do that. But how many times do I have to tell you? And now I can't even go on a date." "Well, you can, but you can't stay out late." "Oh, Mom, you should go on a date too, by the way. You're getting boring. I mean, you're still young. Don't you want to meet someone who loves you?" "No, I don't, because I've been through this before and I'm not going to make the same mistakes again." "Oh, come on. Just because you had bad luck with my dad doesn't mean all men are the same." "Mom, I'm an adult, so you can just forget about me and start living for yourself. You know I won't mind that. Besides, Stephen and I are getting married soon, and you'll be alone. And I don't want that. You shouldn't get married in a hurry. Live for yourself, finish college, get a job. Maybe you'll like another boy. You haven't thought about that?" "No, I haven't, because I don't need anyone but Stephen. I can't even look at anyone else." At that moment, the doorbell rang. Adriana looked at the clock in surprise and then at her mom. "You're expecting someone?" "No, I thought it would make Stephen come too early. He and I agreed to meet tonight. You know that." "All right. Well, I'll go get it. Maybe Betty's here. She promised to come over a long time ago." Adriana shrugged and turned to the mirror again. "Really, how good is she?" Adriana thought. "Stephen is going to be absolutely delighted with me tonight." Outside the door of the room, she heard Christopher's voice. It was the son of her mom's friend Betty. "Please lend me the money I need." "What are you short on again?" "Booze. Your mom would kill me if she knew I was giving you money. You know she hates it when you get drunk." "What's the matter with you, Christopher? You're a young guy. Why do you drink with your aunt?" "Kathy, it's just my life. I can't not drink. Things are really bad. My wife left me. I got fired from my job. And my mother's always nagging me. Just give me a little bit, I promise. Just tonight, and I won't drink again. The pipes are on fire. If you don't give me exactly, I'll die today. Don't tell my mother for the last time, or she'll stop being my friend." "Thank you, Kathy. You just saved me. I'm going to look for a job tomorrow." Realizing I can't live like this, Kathy closed the door behind Christopher and sighed. Such a good-looking, handsome, smart guy. But when his wife left him, he started drinking. And within 6 months, he'd turned into an alcoholic. Betty didn't know what to do with him. She even wanted to get him coded, but Christopher didn't want to. He promised he'd stop drinking, but nothing changed. Adriana left the room and looked at her mother reproachfully. "You have nothing to do. Why did you give him money again?" I felt sorry for him. I know it's wrong to do that. But how do I look at him? It seems like he really feels bad. Yeah, they're all lying. You know what people will do to get drunk. So stop helping him, or some of the elite will stop being friends with you. You got it. I'm not giving him any more money. You always say that. The minute he steps foot in the door, you forget everything. I just feel sorry for him. You know, his wife left. He's out of work. Not everyone can handle it on their own. So I'm helping out as much as I can. Betty doesn't understand him in that sense. She won't give him money, yells at him all the time. It's hard on him. I want to help him. But you're not helping him. You're his mom. You're making it worse. Okay, let's not fight today. Just promise me you won't give him any more money, or I'll tell you people what you're doing. And believe me, she won't thank you for it." "Okay, daughter, I understand you. Let's not fight today." Why don't you tell me where you and Stephen are going again tonight? 'Cause you know how worried I am about you, right? Stephen's not a bad guy, but you know what's going on in the world right now. Call me and tell me where you are and how you're doing. And home by 12 o'clock, please. Mom, why 12 o'clock? I'm an adult. How many times can you control me? Stephen is going to propose to me soon. You'll see, we'll get married. We'll live together. And you control me like a little girl. You can't do that. Besides, you know how it is. The clubs are just starting to open at this time. And I have to go home. Oh, those clubs. I hear about them all the time. It's all drugs and booze. That's why young people want to go there. And you too. Mom, why do we have to sit on the bench outside the house like old people? Why are you getting so worked up again? Let's talk about good things. We're so nervous today. Okay, daughter, it's up to you. But I warned you not to stay out late. Call me because I'm worried. Kathy went into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat down at the table. She realized she had done the wrong thing herself. How many times Betty had complained to her about how she couldn't do anything about her son, what she'd told him to get a grip on himself, and tried to reconcile him with his wife. But nothing worked. And now it turns out that she gives him money to drink with her own hands. We gotta do something about that. We can't do that. And if people tell her what she did today, she'll be without a friend. Then her thoughts turned to her daughter, all grown up. She's all grown up now. She'll really get married soon. She'll leave her and she'll stay, Kathy all alone. Of course, she was very happy for her daughter. Especially her boyfriend is not bad, but still something told her. It was probably just female jealousy. She didn't want to say goodbye to her daughter because Adriana was determined that as soon as she got married, she and her husband would live separately. That's the right strategy. That's right. She herself had always wanted to live apart from her parents because she realized it was not a good thing. It's understandable. Parents are older, smarter, have lived their lives. But of course, they think that they can give advice to their children, who, however, want to live their lives as they see fit, not as their parents have lived their lives. At this time, the doorbell rang. Kathy realized that it was definitely Betty coming in. She set the glass down. Sighing, she went to open the door. It was indeed Betty on the doorstep. But you're going to keep me on the doorstep for a long time. I feel like you weren't expecting me today. Or did something happen to you? No, I was just thinking and didn't realize it was you. Oh, come on. I called you. I told you I'd be there. You're always at work. You're always busy. You've got other things to do. She's a businesswoman. Well, of course she is. What did you want? You have to make money. So I'm making money. My daughter's a student. She's getting married soon. It's going to cost us a lot of money. Are you sure you're going to have a wedding? Or is it just an evening? I don't know yet. In fact, I haven't gotten a proposal yet. Besides, I think that my daughter should finish her studies and find a job first. Because family life is not that simple. It's good with Mom. She went to the institute. In the morning came at lunchtime. Everything is ready. He ate, goes to study. But here you have to buy groceries and rent an apartment. And you have to pay for all that. But I've got Adriana. She's smart. She'll manage. Although, Stephen, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a bad guy from a good family. I've already found out all about him. There's a few things wrong with him, but I don't think it's that important. My daughter loves him, and I don't want to go against her decision. They all love each other. And then you see what happens. I don't know what to do with my son. He's taken money again. I see him coming out of the store with a bottle. But that's where he takes it. Tell me, please. I hid everything at home so he wouldn't sell anything. But he still manages to do it. I talk to him every day. But he doesn't listen to me. Is his Christina living with him? Or is he obsessed with her? I can see it. Well, what did you want? A family. They loved each other. And if that's the case, why don't you talk to him or Christina? How long do I have to talk to Christina? It's all the same. I won't live with him, that's all. And she dares to tell me he's an alcoholic. I'll tell you, she made him that way, because my son was never that way. Life happens. Believe me, I think he'll recover, get a good job. What are you talking about? These alcoholics only make promises. I need to treat him. But I have no idea how I'm gonna do it. He refuses to go to the hospital. Anyway, I'm tired. I have no energy left. Well, I just came to talk to you. And we're dealing with my family problems again. Tell me something. How do you keep yourself in shape? Look at me. I've probably gained 15 pounds, and you're still as thin and slim as a birch. I'm invited to a birthday party, and I can't fit into my evening dress. So I thought I'd see you today for that reason, so you could give me some advice. Who invited you to your birthday party? I thought I was your only friend. You are. But don't forget, I have coworkers. I'm not as much of a businesswoman as you are, but we still have some connections. Okay. Anyway, a coworker invited me. We're going to go to a restaurant. So you're saying you have a man? Oh, I'm not saying anything. We're just hanging out. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not old enough to have a man. Oh, come on. It's all nonsense. You're a normal, beautiful woman who has the right to be happy. And then you can still have a baby. You're crazy at 40. No, my son is enough for me. I don't want any more children. Well, maybe you're right. It's risky to have a baby at our age. You better tell me, my friend, why with your job and your position that I still have one. Yeah, you know, I never thought about it. After raising my daughter alone, I decided I'm not getting married again. It's not for me. At that moment, Adriana came into the kitchen. She said hello and winked at her mother. And what is this secret couple you're here to talk about? I understand about men. And who's got one? Mom, talk. What are you talking about? First of all, no one's had one yet. It's just that Betty says she's going to a birthday party at a restaurant. She's been invited. And then there's the whole work thing. And you're already making up your own damn mind. Mom, you're a grown woman, and you're hiding such basic things from me. But can't I see it for myself? Look at Betty. She even changed her hair. And she looks pretty good. It's obvious when a man shows up. The girl knows what's going on. Your mom didn't even notice. Yeah, my mom's been kind of sad lately. I don't know what to do. I mean, really, Kathy, what's going on with you? What are you thinking about? Are you in some kind of trouble? Oh, you guys, I don't have a problem. I'm just looking. My daughter's all grown up. Soon I'll be all alone. It's getting sad. It seems like only yesterday she was a little girl, and now she's getting married. But what's wrong, Mom? Why are you so worried? I'll give you grandchildren to nurse, and you won't be alone again. Besides, it's not like I'm moving to another city somewhere nearby. We'll get an apartment here. We'll see each other all the time. Although you say that now, family life isn't what you think it is. You and your husband will want to see each other. They're with me. Especially after marriage is such a wonderful time, especially when people love each other. So I'm not offended. I understand. I just don't feel good about it. I can't explain the feeling. But Kathy, I don't like your mood. You should be happy for your daughter. And you're just feeling depressed. You can't pull yourself together. Hey, why don't you go to a restaurant? We'll have a good time with me, sit and talk. Tell me honestly, when was the last time you went out? What are you talking about? You're invited, you go. That's exactly where I don't belong. Look, Mom, really, why don't you go? You really haven't gone out in a long time. That's enough. I'm not going anywhere. What about you, Betty? Don't be silly. Why don't we talk about what you're wearing? Besides, don't worry about your weight. You look great. You don't look thin at all. That's what I'm telling you. Just a little bit. Don't even think about losing weight. You're already looking great. If you succeed with that man, then you and I together will look for a man for my mom, because she is very beautiful, and I do not want her to stay alone. Besides, Mommy, but you deserve to be happy in the end. Daughter, why do you think that to be happy you have to have a man around? No, it's not for me. I've made up my mind, and I know I don't need anyone else in my life. Yeah, you can't change my mom's mind. Well, I'll be off then. Stephen's already here waiting for me. Don't worry, I'll be there when the phone rings. It's not too late. Adriana left, and there was silence in the kitchen. Each of the women was thinking about something else. Kathy was so sad again that she didn't know what was happening to her. Lately, this oppressive feeling had not let her go at all. She didn't know what was wrong. It seems like a great job. Colleagues are good. Daughter's doing well in school. Got an apartment, a car. And still, I didn't feel good. Kathy, what are you thinking about all the time? I've been talking to you for 5 minutes, but it's like you can't hear me. What's wrong again? I can tell there's something wrong with you. I don't know. I can't explain the uneasy feeling I've been having for a month. I mean, everything seems fine. And then again, it's like something's wrong. What do you think it could be? Without the baby, it's just stressful. The daughter's grown up, of course. I mean, we want them to be small all the time. Well, it doesn't work that way. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of my wall. And everything's gonna be great with you. Hey, before I forget, I wanted to ask you for that blue dress. I'm really excited about it. I think it's perfect for me. And you know very well I don't have any jewelry. And your ring on your finger is driving me crazy. I love it. Do you have it with you? Yeah, it's a sapphire, only it's a family heirloom. It passed down to my grandmother from my great-grandmother. Then my mom got it, and then my mom gave it to me. I never take it off. The only thing I know I'll take it off is when my daughter gets married. That's when I'm gonna give this ring to her. Well, I see, all right. Do you have any jewelry to go with this dress besides this ring? To be honest, I didn't think it was that expensive. I thought it was just vintage, that's all. No, it is expensive, just not in that way. But you know what I mean. It's expensive. It's a keepsake. And the jewelry, we'll find it. You know, I have a lot of it. So we'll find something. By the way, do you have any shoes to go with that dress? If not, there's probably a problem, because you and I have different foot sizes. Now come on, let's go try the dress on. Listen, what would I do without you? If it wasn't for you, I'd be shopping right now. Because when I opened my closet the other day, I had nothing to wear like any other woman. And I haven't been to the store in a long time. And to be honest, I've fallen behind on fashion. You're the fashionista. Your suits are elegant. Your dress is gorgeous. So I thought I'd ask you for help. Well, you were right to come to me. Besides, I don't wear half my clothes. You come to me sometime. We'll go through these things, but you'll wear them. I'm not comfortable with that. Kathy, I'm just asking you for a dress, and you're trying to throw my whole closet at me. Don't be ridiculous. I said we'll take it now. Because look what I have in my closet. There's nowhere to put it. And believe me, I have the same problem. Nothing to wear all the time. Adriana looked at Stephen, smiling happily. She'd fallen in love with him as soon as she saw him. She pretended not to be interested in him. Stephen pursued her for 2 years, but then she gave in. And now they were always together. He tried not to leave her for a minute. Especially at the Institute, he was always near her. Today he noticed that Adriana was pensive. What's wrong? What's wrong with you? Yes, my mom's been sad lately. I look at her, and there's sadness in her eyes. She's never been like that before. Maybe it's because of me. Maybe she doesn't like the fact that you and I are getting married. No, she's very nice to you. She thinks you'd make a good husband. You know, it's something else. Maybe she's sick. You haven't noticed. No, she doesn't complain about her health. She's always cheerful. But there's something about her that makes me very uneasy, and I can't figure out what's going on. So how can I help you? Antonia, I wish I knew, but I don't know what's going on. So don't panic. Maybe mom's having problems at work. Maybe in her personal life. There's probably a lot you don't know about her, right? No, my mom and I don't have any secrets. We trust each other. I always know if she has any problems. Then I don't know. But you wait a little longer. Maybe it'll all come out, and then you'll realize it's nothing. I'd like to believe that, but I'm feeling a little uneasy. Well, let's not talk about sad things now. Why don't you tell me where we're going tonight? You know, I was gonna ask you to take a walk. The last time I went to the club, I didn't really like it. Yeah, I don't think you did either. Anyway, Adriana, to tell you the truth, I'm not a fan of noise. I don't like all that music. It gives me a headache all day long. To be honest, I realized that a long time ago. I was just waiting for you to admit it to me. I would have told you a long time ago. It's just that you're a girl. I thought you wanted to be in places like this. So I put up with it. Well, you shouldn't have. You can't do that. We have to be honest with each other. And if I don't like it, do I have to put up with it? No, you misunderstand me. It's just that I would do anything for you, just to make you feel good. That's what I realized a long time ago. Just don't be like this anymore. If you don't like something, and if you're worried about something, say it right away. You need to solve such issues quickly, not tolerate for the sake of someone else. Although, to be honest, I'd put up with a lot of things for you too. Let's go to the park. It's so nice there now. We should get a bun on the way, feed the ducks. I've always loved it. My mom used to take me there when I was a kid, and we'd feed them together. They're getting used to it. They get closer and closer. I remember I even petted one, but it flew right away. But I remember that moment for the rest of my life. Are you right? It's really great. I love nature too, especially when my father used to take me fishing. Now he doesn't have time. They complain he doesn't have time. He complains about his health. We don't go anywhere now. But when I was a teenager, we used to do it quite often. My mom wasn't a nature lover. She always stayed home. So we only went on vacation with my dad. I think that's why they're getting along now. Because they always vacationed separately. And that, you know, it doesn't bring a family closer together. But on the contrary, it pushes them away from each other. I promise you that you and I will do everything together on vacation, together to work together. And when you and I have children to babysit, we will also be together. That's wonderful. I love you so much, Adriana. You have no idea. Now let's go to the park before it gets dark and the ducks go to bed. Oh, that's okay. We won't have time to feed them. That's okay. We'll sit on the bench. We'll watch. Couples in love like us and daydream. Listen, Adriana, I wanted to talk to you. Here's something else. My parents want to meet your mother. I've been telling them I want to marry you. I think it's time for them to get to know each other and plan our wedding. How do you feel about that? You take your time, Stephen. I don't think now is the time. Let's finish school first, then get a job, and then think about our wedding. Well, it's so long we've already decided. Yes, we have. But my mom insists that the wedding should take place only after you and I get a job. Well, think about it. We'll have to rent a place, buy some furniture. It's a lot of work. I know my parents will help us, but I don't want my mom spending money on me. She spent her whole life on me. And then I'll get married and I'll be sitting on her neck too. I don't know. My parents are willing to help us out. They say whatever I decide, they'll always be on my side. But my mom will be on my side too. You're forgetting one thing. You have a full-fledged family. My mom's been dragging me around all by herself. My dad left us when I was very young. And after that, my mom never remarried. She did everything to give me a happy, normal childhood. To be honest, I never even thought about my father, because when I grew up, I realized that I shouldn't think about a man who left his wife with a small child. It means that he is not a worthy man. I'm sorry, Adriana, I didn't mean to offend you. It's true. Sometimes when I meet you like this, I forget that you don't have any. Dad, Mom is really worthy of respect because she did everything to make you a happy child. That's really great, to be honest. I understand your mom somewhere because you think if I have a complete family, we're doing great, but my parents fight all the time. I recently found out that my dad was cheating on my mom, even though she probably knew about it. So, do you think I'm doing well in that kind of atmosphere? I can see that they hardly talk. If they do, it's kind of rude. They fight a lot. And that's wrong. They're cowards. Because if something went wrong between them, they should have solved it much earlier, instead of torturing each other all their lives. Now who needs both of them? Unless some young girl has got my dad's head wrapped around it. Well, it won't be for long. He won't be happy with her. And knowing my mom, she wouldn't go for that. Naturally, she'll be alone. Although, if they'd figured it out sooner, it's possible. In their time, everyone could build their own happy family and be happy. Yes, Stephen, I didn't realize you were so complicated. I always thought you were doing great. But no, it's very sad. Forgive me if I'm wrong about something, but again, you see, your parents love you anyway. If their love is gone, they think about you all the time. And by the way, they only live together for you. Don't you ever think about that? Yeah, sure. But parents shouldn't sacrifice themselves for their children. Because you can see that now. I met you. You're my destiny. I want to live with you. I mean, naturally. I'll leave home and have my own happy family, hopefully. And they'll be alone. That's what I'm talking about. Can you imagine? At that age, they'll realize that they don't need each other, that nobody needs them anymore. That's what I'm talking about. That's the mistake I keep telling you about. It's sad. Stephen, you look at it like that and think, is it worth getting married to hate each other like that? And then you have kids, you start to put up with things and give up things, thinking about who's right and who's wrong and living for the child so that he's the only one happy. I'm scared for some reason. Don't be scared of anything. I don't think it's gonna work out between you and me like it did between my parents. And remember, I'm never gonna leave you. I can't. I'm not like that. I was raised and I love you very much. I couldn't even think of leaving you with a little baby. I'm sorry. I don't know what it was about that man your mom fell in love with. But the way he acted, it's really awful. I know because my mom can still get over it sometimes. Even today, a friend of my mom's who's going on a date came over. She even invited her along. Apparently, there's gonna be more than one man there. So Betty decided to bring my mom, but she wouldn't go. She said she wouldn't go, and that was it. Me, realizing that no one could change her mind. It's understandable that you and I, Adriana, are having, unhappy conversations. Let's just talk about us. I miss you so much, I got a little angry and testy. I'm sorry, I just really want us to be together. I want that too, Stephen. But think about it. I think my mom's right after all. We should finish school first, and then we'll see what happens. And I'll talk to her about your parents too. I think it's time for us to get to know each other. Christopher woke up early in the morning, realizing that he couldn't even open his eyes because of a severe headache. He wrinkled his nose as he thought back to yesterday. The last thing he remembered very clearly was going over to Kathy's house to ask her for money. She gave him a pretty good amount, and he went to the store. Then there were some friends. He was sitting in someone's apartment, and now he was afraid to even think about where he was. With a great effort of will, he opened his eyes and realized that he was at home. He wrinkled his nose again. He realized that he was going to have another hard conversation with his mother. After all, she had seen him yesterday, in what state he had come home. It was going to be nerve-wracking again. He'd start talking about how he was living his life wrong. What could he do if he felt like his life was just going down the drain? He didn't even want to work because there was no one to work for. If he had lived before for Christina, now life had lost all meaning. He got up, went to the kitchen. He was terribly thirsty. Besides, he couldn't avoid talking to his mother anyway. But strangely enough, the house was silent. His mother must have gone somewhere. He poured a glass of water and drank it down. He drank the second one less quickly, as his thirst began to recede. He opened the refrigerator, but he didn't feel like eating yet. He went back to his room and lay down on the bed. Remembering that he should have had some money left over from yesterday, he grabbed his shirt, but there was nothing in the pockets. His pants were empty too. Had he spent it all yesterday? That's exactly what he couldn't remember. It was a pretty good sum, and he thought he had enough for the morning. But apparently, he had spent the whole sum yesterday or not, or one of his friends, when he was very drunk, had taken the money out of his pocket. Some friends, though, he wouldn't have even noticed them before, but now they're sitting at the table. They sympathize with his problems. He wonders how he ever lived without them. It's a little sobering now. He realized that they're just drinking buddies, and that if he's going to drink any more, it'll be alone. Well, now the question was where to get money for another bottle. There was no work. His mother wouldn't give him any money. Yeah, going to Kathy's after last night was uncomfortable. He got up every morning with these thoughts. He'd never thought he'd be preoccupied with such problems before. What to do and how to live his life. He decided to get some sleep so that with a clear head he could figure out what to do next. At work, Kathy felt unwell again. She began to feel dizzy for some reason and had a strange ache, some kind of incomprehensible throbbing pain. She wrinkled her nose and looked in her purse for pills, but there were none. Then, looking at her watch, she pulled herself together and decided to take a little walk to the pharmacy. It wasn't like the bosses had work to do anyway. She had hers all done so she could afford to leave. Besides, she was on a good account and thought that her absence would not affect her work much, and she would not have any problems. She didn't feel like driving. She decided to just walk. As she approached the pharmacy, her cell phone rang. She picked up the phone and heard her friend's voice. "Listen, I can't find shoes to match that gorgeous dress of yours. What color should I get? I don't have any. Maybe some white ones or Golubenko. How about black? White shoes would go better with this color. Then you'll need something to wear. You know, like a scarf. Well, or take a white handbag. Then it will be very chic. Blue with white looks great. Great, black's not gonna work. But blue won't really go with white either. You know what I mean? And the white shoes. I think you'll find them. But white, I think I will. Listen, Kathy, I never thought I'd be going on a date. It's such a hassle. Why? Did I say yes? I still can't figure it out. She's not being silly. You encounter your first difficulties and you get frustrated all at once. It's just that you haven't done it in a long time. That's why you're confused. So don't worry, you'll do it. By the way, after the restaurant, I demand details. You'll tell me everything, how it went. But of course, I'll come to you first. You know, I've liked this coworker of mine for a long time. But we've been looking at each other all the time. But neither of us made the first step. All of a sudden, bam, he asks me out. You know, my first impulse was to say no. But then I thought, what the hell? Why not go out? I wouldn't lose anything. But what if I could still make something of my life? There's no hope for my Christopher. He came home last night so drunk. I've never seen him like that in my life. Where does he get his money from? Maybe he got a job. Do you think after a binge like that, even if he gets a job, they'll kick him out again? That's a shame. Well, let's not talk about the sad stuff. I'm going to go buy white shoes. When I'm ready, I'll call you again. Kathy was very glad this conversation was finally over. She really didn't like to lie to anyone. She always told the truth, but she couldn't do that here. But how would she tell her friend that she herself had personally given her son money to drink? He would never forgive her for that. And it pained her very much, but she couldn't do anything else. She remembered how he had come to her yesterday so unhappy. It was obvious that he was very unhappy. Naturally, her hand went for her purse. What could she do? She really wished no one would know about it. but most likely Christopher himself would sooner or later let it slip. Then she'd have to explain herself to her friend. Of course, they might be fighting, but she would do anything to ask her forgiveness and make up with her again by buying pills at the pharmacy. If you're worried about me, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm very aware of what's going on. But like you told me the other day, we'll see each other. It's not like you're moving to the ends of the earth. We're gonna live in the same city. So what's the problem? Adriana realized that it was better not to talk to her mother on this topic, and she hurried to change the conversation to another direction. Mom, well, let's go to dinner then. I've already heated everything up and cooked it. They walked into the kitchen together, and when Kathy opened the cupboard, she saw that the bread was out. Yeah, you warm it up, daughter, you warm it up. She didn't realize we were out of bread. Okay, Mom, let me run out real quick. No, I'll do it. By the way, I skipped almost half a day of work today. Something happened. I just had a headache. I had to get some fresh air. And now I've got another headache while I'm driving through traffic. So I'm gonna go to the store to get some relief. Well, I'll set the table for now. But the manti, you quickly do not linger, because I'm terribly hungry. Kathy left the apartment and already headed towards the bakery. It was not far away. They always got hot bread or other pastries there, depending on their mood. The streetlights were already coming on. Kathy walked quietly, looking around. Finally, the bakery. She walked in and breathed in the smell of freshly baked bread. She took 2 loaves and was about to pay when suddenly she heard a familiar voice nearby. Aunt. Kathy. Hello, how are you? It was Christopher. He looked terrible, of course. I could tell he was sick again. Christopher, how can you sing like that? Did you even feel sorry for your mother? You don't know how ashamed I am that I gave you money. Besides, you know how long we've been friends. She's so worried about you. I couldn't say it. To say I gave you money. Well, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. I wanted to go to work today, to go. Yeah, I couldn't. I had a headache. I don't know what to do. If you think I'm supposed to help you, I can't help you today. I'm embarrassed enough in front of your mother. Why do you say that? You know very well I won't say anything. Christopher, don't you realize that whether you say anything or not, I don't care. I'll say this, and I'll say that. But the fact that you don't just love your health, you love hers. Have you thought about that? She cares about you. She feels bad about you drinking. Better get a job, and you'll see. And she'll come right back. Because they'll see that you're okay. What do you even understand? Kristen is not coming back to me. She left me. She fell in love with someone else. So I drink. It's good for you to talk like that. You don't have that problem. You know, you're not the only one who's been dumped in this life. Everybody's been dumped. You just have to know how to take a punch. My husband left me too, with a small child. But I was smart enough not to get drunk and move on. But you're a man. You're stronger. It's good that it happened to you. But it's easier to do nothing. To complain about life and wallow in your grief. You try something different. Christopher, you'll make it work. I hate all you teachers so much. What about you? What about my mother? I say I feel bad. You understand. But you don't believe me. You think you've lived your life, don't you? Like hell I do. Everyone has a life. And everyone lives it differently. If you don't give me money, I don't need your handouts. That kind of aggression made Kathy uncomfortable. She didn't even realize what she'd said that offended Christopher. It's all true. They all didn't like him drinking, but she wouldn't let him treat her like that. And you, Christopher, don't be mean to me. You've got the wrong girl. I didn't expect this from you, of course, but now I'm telling you to stay away from me, and don't come home either. Whatever happens to you now, I'm no help to you. I thought I could do better. You don't care. Live your life as you like. It's your life. I'm not gonna give you any more advice. What, you think I can't live without your advice? Yes, I can. So calm down. And in general, once again, I hate you so much I'm ready to do it myself. I will never see you again in my life." Kathy didn't say anything else. She realized that Christopher wasn't himself and that this could end badly. She paid for the bread. She turned around and went home. Her mood was badly ruined, and it was just plain unpleasant. Besides, she had never done anything bad to her best friend's son in her life. Always tried to help. What had gotten into him? She couldn't figure it out. Well, if he didn't want to communicate, let him not communicate. Betty was a pity, of course. It was her child, after all. Anyway, a mother always worries about her child. And here it is. "Mom, what's wrong? Your face is gone. Did someone hurt you?" "I ran into Christopher at the store. He's sick again. He asked for money again. He was rude to me too. You know, it's kind of embarrassing. I don't mean him any harm, but I feel like he sees me as the enemy. He sees everybody as the enemy now. You know what his situation is, don't you? The man won't pull himself together. But it's not our fault. Of course it's not our fault, but we feel sorry for him. You feel sorry for him again. He's rude, and you feel sorry for him. That's enough. Let's go to dinner. Take the bread. I'm not having dinner tonight. I don't like it. I'd better go to bed. I've had a headache all day. It doesn't feel right. Mom, maybe you should go to the hospital." "Well, if the headache doesn't go away, I probably will. Now, if you'll excuse me, you go on and get some rest. I'm gonna go to bed." The next day, Kathy felt more or less well. Betty called her again in the afternoon and said she would definitely run over to their house to tell her the news. Kathy was happy for her friend and thought that the date must have been a success. "I dropped off your dress, and it turned out to be a lucky one." "Okay, I won't say anything yet. I'll tell you in person. It's pretty clear you're doing great. You have no idea. I'm so happy for you. Honestly, I really didn't think I'd be this happy at this age. You know, Kathy, it's a good feeling. I'd forgotten what it could be like. Well, all right. I'll see you tonight, just like Betty promised. I stopped by a friend's house. Well, I'll have a cheka for Liege." "Yes, sure. I'll pour it. Come on in. You can't imagine how gallant he is, can you?" She started talking right away. "Plus, he told me he's liked me for a long time. Although, to be honest, I've liked him for a long time too." "Aha. That's right. You were like two adult fools who liked each other but couldn't say anything. I'm right. That's how it works. Anyway, we realized that yesterday and we decided we need to stop running away from each other and get closer. So are you gonna live with him?" "Well, no. I've decided we're just going out for now. But we'll see what happens. But there's a little bit of a catch. He wants me to live with him. I'm afraid to leave Christopher alone in the apartment. Do you know what state he's in right now? I'm afraid that one day I might be without a home. I'm afraid he'll drink it all away." "Oh, come on. I don't think your Christopher would do that. Besides, as far as I know, the apartment is in your name. He might keep the apartment, but he'd take everything out of the house." They both fell silent after that. What can you really say? It's scary to even think about it. And even more so to hear it. It's good that you have a girl. Can you rely on her? The guy's a mess. I never thought I'd have to suffer like this with Christopher. I must be being punished for something from above. I don't know. I've never done anything bad to anyone. You've got to get those thoughts out of your head. Because if you think like that, you're gonna get hurt. I think you're gonna be okay. And Christopher will come around. In the meantime, you better get on with your personal life. And then you and your coworker can talk some sense into your son. By the way, what's his name? You're a coworker and a coworker. Oh, really? I never introduced him to you. His name is John. We'll be seeing him again soon. Well, I'd like you to meet him, of course. And if I do, we'll come by your place sometime. I'll call you before we do. But if you want to do it on neutral ground, then let's make it like we met by chance. And then I'll introduce you anyway. Oh, come on. Why are you going to extremes? You can come to my place, We'll have a cup of tea, sit and talk. You know very well that I'm always home after work. All right then. I'll call you before I come over. Hey friend, why do you have such black eyes? You don't feel well. I've been feeling bad lately. My eyes have been hurting all the time. Nausea. And I don't know about the headache. I've never had a headache as bad as I have these days. It's noticeable, but I think it's time for you to go to the hospital. If you thought it was nothing at first, you'll see you need to see a doctor. Yeah, I know, but I don't really want to go. I hate hospitals. Who likes hospitals? I'm always holding out until I'm really sick. Doctors are always cursing at me. What can I do if I don't want to go to them? They're always such a hassle. Betty and Kathy talked some more. Then, seeing that her friend had another headache, she decided to go home. Well, it's just like we agreed. Anyway, I'm calling you, giving you a heads up. And John and I are coming over to your place. I'll introduce you to him. And by the way, he has a friend who I think would be great for you. Come on, Betty. You know damn well, I don't want anyone. And let's just drop the subject once and for all. If I feel that I still want to live like any other woman with a man, I'll let you know first. Okay, all right then. Now get some rest, and tomorrow I want you to go to the hospital, because I'm starting to fear for you. You don't look so good. Kathy was already thinking of going to the hospital first thing in the morning. Her head was hurting so badly, and she wasn't prepared to put up with that kind of pain. But when she got up in the morning, she realized that she felt pretty good again. She decided not to go anywhere, packed up and went to work. She hadn't seen Adriana much lately. She was preparing for a session, and as far as Kathy was concerned, she and Stephen were preparing together. When she called her, her daughter told her that they practiced more often in the park because there were few people there during the day, and it was a pleasure to study in nature. Adriana had been feeling uneasy lately. She couldn't explain the feeling, but the uneasiness hadn't left her until spring. Several days in a row she had bad dreams. Stephen could see that something was going on with his girlfriend. He asked her several times what was going on. Only he never heard a clear answer. I feel like you're hiding something from me. You can't do that. Remember, you and I agreed not to hide anything from each other. Stephen, I'm not hiding anything. It's just that I can't explain what's happening to me right now. You know, something's bothering me, but I can't understand what's happening to me. It's probably just you worrying about exams. I know, it happens to me a lot too. It's fine. Don't worry. You know you'll pass. But Adriana realized it wasn't about the session. It was something else, and her mom had been worrying her a lot lately. She wasn't complaining about anything, but at the same time it was obvious that she felt very bad. She had lost a lot of weight in just a couple days. Her face had shrunk a lot, and there were bruises under her eyes. I'm still very worried about my mom. Maybe it's her. Really, I ask her what's going on with her. She just keeps saying she's fine. But I don't believe her. Your mom's a strong woman. I think if she says that, she's fine. Although maybe it's the fatigue that's making her sick. How long has she been on vacation? I don't even remember my mom taking a vacation. Aren't you right, Stephen? I'll tell her to take some time off. Although I know she's not going to take a vacation right now. That's fine. Talk to her. Let her get some rest, and you'll see she'll feel better. And you know, I'm gonna call these people. She's definitely backing me up right now, because I was listening in the kitchen the other day to her telling my mom that she doesn't look good. The first thing Adriana did when she got home was to call her mother. She could have done that earlier. But even in the morning, she realized that she had left her phone at home. But her mom didn't pick up and was apparently busy, so she dialed her mom's friend's number. Betty picked up the phone and anxiously asked Adriana what was wrong. Betty, hi. Yeah, nothing's wrong. I just wanted to talk to you. But thank God, I was beginning to think it was. You see, lately I've been worried about your mom. Something's wrong with her, even though she told me she went to the hospital and they said she was fine. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I'm very worried about it too. I want my mom to rest for a couple of days. Maybe you could come over today and we could talk to her together. She needs to rest, but she won't even hear me. She says there's nothing wrong with her. Okay, Adriana. I'll be sure to come by today. You know, that's a great idea. You're doing great. I think the two of us can talk to her. After that conversation, Adriana felt a little better. She decided to clean up the house and make a nice dinner to please her mom and get in the mood to talk. Kathy walked into the study and pulled out her cell phone. She had left it in her purse because in a meeting where she had been in for almost an hour and a half, it wasn't worth coming in with it. There was a call from her daughter and someone else. She wanted to call back, but her eyes went black. The pain in her head increased again, and she passed out. She woke up in the hospital. How had she gotten here, and what had happened to her? She had no memory at all. When she turned her head, she saw someone in a white coat. "Excuse me, can you tell me where I am?" "You're awake." "That's fine. I'll have a doctor come and answer all your questions." "Adriana." He looked at his watch. Mom should have been home a long time ago. But she wasn't. She wanted to call her aunt. When she called her auntie herself, "Adriana, your mom's in the hospital. Get ready. I'll pick you up and we'll go together." "Okay. How's the hospital? What happened to her?" "Don't panic. I don't really know anything. So let's get there as soon as possible. We'll know right away. Nobody told me anything." Adriana was in a panic. Her premonition told her that everything that had happened to her in the last few days was not in vain. The main thing was that nothing would happen to her mom. The main thing was that she would be okay. The car with Betty, Adriana, and a man in it was quiet. No one was talking. Everyone was thinking about their own things. Adriana prayed quietly, realizing that if anything happened to her mother, she wouldn't survive it. They were not allowed into the room right away. They were told that the doctor was there. He would first do his own examination and then tell them whether they could visit the patient or not. Adriana strongly disliked this, but Betty calmed her down as best she could, saying that there was nothing they could do now anyway. Adriana, of course, realized that it would be much better this way. She would just have to be patient and wait. The most important thing was that Mom was healthy. "Adriana, don't worry, your mom will be fine. She's just probably overworked a little bit, and everyone needs to rest. Only your mom didn't understand that. Well, she'll realize that's not right. She'll stay in the hospital for a while. Calm down, get better, and everything will be fine." "Do you really think so? Because lately I've been thinking my mom's been sick a lot. I asked her, but she wouldn't tell me anything. I think she was probably hiding it from me. And you don't know anything about it." "I don't. Your mom's really good at keeping secrets, but you see how that turned out. Even though she didn't tell us anything, we're about to find out for ourselves." Soon the doctor came out of the room. He looked at Adriana, then at Betty. "It's Kathy. I wouldn't recommend going in to see her right now. She needs her rest. My mom's in there, and you have no right to stop me." "I want to see her." "All right, you can go in and see her." "And who are you?" "I'm her friend, a close friend. We've been friends for a long time." "I see, let's go to my office. And you, young lady, you can stay with your mother for a while." Adriana entered the room, not knowing what to say and noticing that she was scared for some reason. For as long as she could remember, her mom had never been sick, and she couldn't even imagine her mom in a place like this. "Mommy, how are you feeling?" "Oh, Adriana, mine's here. It's okay. Sweetheart, don't worry. You have a session ahead of you. You shouldn't be here. Do you need to study?" "Mom, what are you talking about? You think I can study while you're here?" "You can, of course. Do you understand? The doctor told me it's fatigue. I should have taken a vacation a long time ago, but I kept putting it off. And now this is what I got. But it's okay. I'll be out of here in a couple days. Don't worry about it. I'm sure I will." "Well, that's good then. And I promise you that I'll do my best in this session. Don't forget, I'm going for a red diploma, so I'll be fine. And Stephen and I already got jobs. His father recommended us to his management, and they said they need young people. I'm so happy for you, daughter, that you're doing so well. Now go on, kid, get some rest. You got some tough days ahead of you. You know that, right? And I need to get some rest. Mom, I'll come over with Stephen tomorrow. That's okay. No need. Please study. You have exams in 2 days, and I'll feel bad if you're with me all the time. Why don't you just take the exams and then come to the hospital whenever you want? Adriana realized it was better not to argue with her mother right now. And why make her nervous? She would come to her tomorrow night anyway. Report to her. Say that she had done everything, that she was ready as a replacement. At home, put away the flowers, took her to dinner, cooked something. And Mom will feel good right away. Betty sat in the doctor's office and did not know what to say to what she had just heard. Viktor Sergeyevich poured her a glass of water, handed it to her and said, "Only she asked me not to tell anyone about her diagnosis at all, especially not to let her daughter know. But I realize that it is impossible to keep silent about such a thing, so that those close to her would be ready for her departure. Believe me, there's nothing I can do. If she'd come to us, like 6 months ago, I think we could have saved her. But now, alas, there's nothing we can do. The disease is progressing like a hurricane, you know." Betty nodded. What she had just heard was a shock to her. How would she be without Kathy now? What about Adriana? Wouldn't she freak out when she found out? Of course she wouldn't say anything to her, just as she had asked Kathy to be there for Adriana, realizing what lay ahead of her. After all, losing a mother, especially to a daughter, is a very scary thing. After she left the doctor's office, she walked to Kathy's room. She didn't go in. Realized that Adriana was still in there, but how would she go in to see her later? She just couldn't bear to burst into tears, and she would realize that she knew about everything. That would only make it worse for her, so she decided not to go in today. She just sat down and waited for Adriana. Soon she came out. "A little loot, will you be stopping by?" "If I have to, it won't take long." Mom said she wanted to sleep a little. "That's fine, let her rest. But you'll be at the institute tomorrow morning anyway, so we'll take turns visiting her. Now let's go. We'll take you home with John. 5 years. What did the doctor say?" "He told me what's going on with her." "Yeah, he told me there's nothing wrong. It's just your mom's a little fractured." At this point, Betty didn't know where to put her eyes. She didn't know how to lie, and she realized that if Adriana looked at her now, she would know right away. "Betty, you're certainly not lying to me. Mom's really going to be okay." "Of course your mom's strong. She'll be fine. Now let's go. You're tired. I've had a lot of stress today. We should get some rest. And to be honest, I was pretty freaked out today." "You're right. I didn't realize it was so scary. Illness is always scary. Adriana wouldn't wish it on anyone, especially when it's your nearest and dearest." Betty arrived home and went straight to the kitchen. She didn't know where to put herself. She had only one thought in her head: to drink something, so that she wouldn't think about anything else. But she didn't have any alcohol in the house, and even if she had, Christopher would probably have drunk it long ago. He was home tonight, as luck would have it. Betty hadn't talked to him much lately. What was there to talk about? It was clear her son didn't want to change his life. "Why are you like this?" "Something wrong. Something happened. Kathy went to the hospital." "Why worry about it? I was sick a while ago too, but you didn't even treat me." "She said I'll be fine. She'll be fine." "I see. She doesn't have much time left. Maybe a month, maybe 3 days. And don't you talk to me like that. Ungrateful." Christopher gave his mother an angry glare and went back to his room. "I'm actually waiting for you to go finally from this apartment to your hole, because I can't see you anymore," he shouted from his room. Betty sat down at the table and covered her face with her hands. She no longer paid attention to her son. His words didn't move her at all. She was hurting for Kathy. She couldn't even imagine that soon she wouldn't be with her. What if the doctor was wrong? Kathy, she's strong. She'll pull through. At least for her daughter's sake. That thought felt good. It warmed her soul, and Betty went to her room to go to bed. Tomorrow she would visit her, talk to her, tell her that they all hoped for her and that they wanted her to get well. Adriana and Stephen left the institute and walked towards her house. She lived not far away, and she liked it very much. Her mother had bought this apartment with the expectation that kindergarten and school would be near, and it turned out that the institute she wanted to go to was also close by. Adriana was also nearby. Stephen, you'll stay with me for a while. And then none. I think it's no fun to keep my mom in my head. I'm so scared for her. I know when my mom got sick, I almost went crazy too. I remember that for a long time I resented my father, who never even came to visit her in the hospital. He only called her on the phone. That's weird. I saw your dad. He seemed like a very nice man. And your mom's a wonderful woman. And when you start talking about your family, I can't believe how bad they are. Yeah, no one does. I know why love happens. Because they don't have it for each other. That's all. It was a mistake not to split up, because then they wouldn't have tortured anyone else. Well, I'm tired of telling them that. Let them deal with it. We went to see your mom today. Of course we did. Even though she told us not to visit her, Betty came to the hospital to talk to her friend. She'd been up all night, thinking about the right thing to do. Should she tell her friend she knew everything? Or like yesterday with Adriana, hide everything? In the morning, she realized she still hadn't decided what she should do. After calling work, Betty scrambled to get to the hospital. Opening the door of the room, she looked at a pale Kathy, who was no longer asleep but staring pensively out the window. Her heart twitched, but Betty pulled herself together and decided not to show her that she knew everything. What's up? Hello, friend. You gave us quite a scare last night. I can't do that. I'll tell you too. You should have seen what happened to us last night. Kathy turned her head and smiled. And there's no need to be scared. I'm fine. Just a little overworked. A little to you, maybe. But for us, the whole thing was, frankly, a blow. As soon as I got the call from the hospital, I almost fainted. Good thing John was there to get me some water. I can see you're doing great with John. I'm very happy for you. He just proposed to me. I wanted to tell you yesterday, but you didn't have time. I'm happy for you, Betty. Do you deserve it? I think you're gonna make it with him. How's Christopher? He's just as bad, even worse. He's become completely unbearable. He walks around the apartment angry. Doesn't do anything, doesn't go to work. It's a nightmare. I feel sorry for the guy. I don't know what happened to him. It's like he's been replaced. I mean, he's never been like this before. I don't know, Kathy. I don't know what happened. Did he love Christina so much that he can't get over it? Okay, why are we talking about me? Yeah, it's about me. Why don't you tell me how you're feeling? I'm fine. I'm really feeling a lot better. The doctor said I need a couple more days and then I'll be discharged. Betty almost cried. She knew what Kathy was talking about. Of course they would, because the doctor had told her yesterday that they couldn't help her. That's fine. Then when you're discharged, you and I will go to John's cottage. I've already been there. You can't imagine how beautiful it is there. We'll get some fresh air and relax. You'll love it there. Okay, let's go. I'll go. In the evening, Adriana and Stephen came to visit Kathy. Though she asked not to come, she realized that in this case her daughter obeyed her, although she was very grateful to her for it. After all, she loved her so much and had likely seen her last days. Good thing it wasn't a friend, not her daughter. Didn't know about anything because she didn't need their tears. Mom, you're not mad at me for listening to you. I've been studying with Stephen all day, so I think it's okay that we came. Really? Besides, I really miss you. I'm not used to not having you around. It's okay. I'll be out of here in a couple days. I hope you have a good session. Everything will be fine. Mom, Betty called me today, and said you're going to the country and you want us to come with you. Stephen and I agree. Well, that's great. We'll have a good time, and the fresh air will do you good. You haven't been out of town in years, have you? You're right, daughter. This will really do me good. They never went to the cottage. Kathy died a week later. She hadn't even been released from the hospital, even though she wanted to be. Adriana lost track of time. Everything was a blur, and the thought that her mother was no longer with her. She didn't know what to do next. It was good that Stephen and Betty, who was just as worried as Adriana, were there for her. Those were hard days. Christopher did not understand how he should go on with his life. His relationship with his mother had soured completely. And with her friend and Kathy, who had always helped him out, he had ruined the relationship himself. He couldn't understand what had gotten into him. It was like he was possessed. He'd lost all his friends lately. They'd all turned their backs on him. He realized he had to do something, but he couldn't do anything. He tried to win Christina back again, but it was too late. She had actually met a real man who loved her and whom she loved. Seeing that he was not succeeding at all, he started drinking again. It seemed to him that then he was relieved that the problems, even if for a short time, but go to the background. But the relief was short-lived. As soon as the effect of the alcohol passed, the longing came over him again. Once again, he did not know what to do next, and he was again looking for money to go to the store. The stores would not lend him any more money. If earlier still went towards the sellers, well, who knew him well? Now all everywhere was a refusal. That day he sat at home. He thought again that he should get a job, but lately it had been useless. Apparently, it was already obvious from him that he was drinking heavily, and no one wanted to get involved with him. At that moment he heard the door slam and his mother crying. He jumped out of the room to see what happened. I knew it. You shouldn't have messed with that guy, your coworker. He's the one who hurt you. Mother looked at him and turned away. What's wrong with your eyes again? You don't see anything. Nobody hurt me. It's just that Kathy's not with us anymore. What do you mean? No? What moved away? No, she didn't move away. She just died. Christopher couldn't believe what he was hearing. He never would have thought Kathy would leave. I mean, she's so young. She's got her whole life ahead of her. And now this. Mom, calm down. I can do something to help, but Betty wouldn't calm down. She still couldn't believe what had happened. It was out of line. For the first time in her life, she didn't know what to do, how to behave, where to go. But then, remembering Adriana, she pulled herself together, realizing that this girl needed her now more than anyone. She started to get dressed again to go to her. Mom, where are you going? But Betty didn't answer anything. I'm going with you. I don't want to leave you alone like this. Adriana couldn't believe that her mom was no longer with her. She didn't know what was happening, who was with her. She only felt Betty, who had been by her side almost all the time. It's okay, sweetie. It's going to be okay. Trust me, your mom's in a much better place right now. How is she better? After all, the doctor said it's nothing serious, that she's just overexcited, tired. You don't die from that. I'm gonna sue them for ruining my mom. The doctor, it's just that Kathy asked us not to say anything, but your mother had cancer. Terminal, which had already spread through her body at breakneck speed. There was nothing you could do. Betty didn't have the courage to tell Adriana that she knew everything, that the doctor had warned her that Kathy was quite ill. She realized that if she told Adriana that she knew everything, the girl would not forgive her. Kathy was brought home briefly so that she could say goodbye. All the neighbors knew her. Everyone loved and respected her. She was a wonderful person. And so Betty and Adriana decided to make sure the neighbors had a chance to see their neighbor off on her last journey as well. Christopher navetted as people come in and out and wondered what else he could do to help. Mom didn't pay any attention to him. She was constantly by Adriana's side. He woke up from his thoughts and realized that there was no one in the room where Kathy was lying. So he decided to go in himself and apologize for the time he had hurt her. He walked closer and a beautiful ring caught his eye. It was antique and looked very rich. Kathy had never taken it off. It was obvious that it was very expensive. The thought immediately flashed through his mind that this ring could solve all his problems. He would pay off his debts, which he had already accumulated a lot. He would clean himself up. He would leave town for a couple of days, and then he would come back with new strength and would be able to get a job. After all, Kathy didn't need that ring, but he could use it. He didn't know what came over him, but he went over and took it off her cold hand. Kathy. A week after the funeral, Christopher decided to sell the ring. He went to an acquaintance of his who bought up such things. "Hello, Robert. I'm here to see you. What do you need me for? Because you know very well I don't lend money. Besides, you still owe me. I thought you weren't gonna show up. Yeah, I'm not worried about the case. Look what I brought you. You can buy it." Christopher took out a ring and showed it to Robert. He looked at it carefully and said, "You know very well that I don't buy stolen goods. That's what you're telling me. That's all you do is buy stuff up. And you used to not care if they were stolen or not. This ring is fine. I didn't steal it. So don't worry. It's my mother's. She doesn't wear it. And she doesn't want to wear it. She doesn't like it. I just thought it'd be wasted if I prayed on it. And I need the money now. Don't you talk to me like that. Any woman would love a ring like that. And believe me, she'd love to wear it. So, I repeat, I'm not taking it. I feel like you stole it. And I don't want no trouble with the law. Why don't you go to a pawn shop and turn it in? Maybe they'll take it. I don't think so, because they'll ask you for IDs. And if it comes out that it was stolen, they'll find you." Christopher felt uncomfortable after saying that. He thought of Adriana. And if indeed she will remember about him, only as she will remember. She did not remember about him then, and now even more so. After all, she thinks he was buried with his mother, so there shouldn't be a problem. "Oh, that's great. Thank you for the advice. I just came to you as a friend, thinking you'd take it from me. But if you don't have to." Christopher could see that Robert was hesitating after saying that. "Let me see the ring again." Christopher handed over the ring, already mentally happy that he finally got rid of it. Besides, it was starting to bother him lately. He started dreaming about Kathy. She didn't say anything to him in his dreams. She just looked at him with a kind of pity and longing. And that look would make him wake up in a cold sweat. "It's a really nice ring. I'm sorry, Christopher. I'm not gonna take it from you after all. I don't know. It's kind of cold. And I don't feel like if I buy it from you, I'll get in trouble, and I don't want that." Christopher sighed. He was sure Robert would take it after all, but he refused. So he took the ring and drove back. On the way, he thought about where he could put it in the pawn shop. For some reason, after what Robert had said, he didn't want to go. He didn't know why, but he was getting scared. His heart began to pound, and it seemed as if he had committed some crime for which he would have to answer sooner or later. He saw a pawn shop and decided to go there. But it was as if something stopped him at the door. He turned around and went home. The ring was in his pocket, and he did not understand how to get rid of it. A kind of fear settled in his soul, clammy, cold. What to do now and how to be? Christopher did not know at all. The thought of throwing it away flashed through his mind. But greed got the upper hand, and he decided to think hard about where he could sell it. In the evening, he went out again. He didn't understand what was happening to him, but he couldn't stay at home, especially when his mom came home from work. Christopher could not look her in the eye. It seemed that she would guess everything at once. He went behind the house, where he saw his acquaintances, with whom he often socialized. They were always meeting there. "Hello, Christopher. How are you? Haven't seen you in a while. What's going on with you? You haven't been in touch with us at all. Did you get a job again?" "No, I just haven't said hello lately." "So you've been holed up at home. Well, that makes sense. Well, sit down. We'll pour you a glass." For old time's sake, Christopher drank a shot and looked at his friends. He felt a little warmer. Then he decided to ask if they knew where to sell the expensive thing. "Why do you bother? Just take it to a pawn shop. Pawn shops check it out. And if it's stolen, they'll find it right away." "No, you have to take it to an antique dealer." Kevin. He likes expensive things. Plus, he does everything right. Buys up everything. But he never gets caught. He'll give you a slightly lower price, though. But that's okay. You'll have money. "Is the stuff real?" "It's expensive." "Yes, one ring. My mom doesn't like it. She doesn't wear it. So I decided to sell it to a pawn shop." "Take it to your mother. Even if she notices it's missing, she'll know it's you. She won't have to report you to the police. And show us the ring too. We'll take a look. Maybe it's not worth it to Kevin. He only likes antiques. There's a reason they call him the antique dealer. Not with me, but he left it at home. I'm not going out with such an expensive item. I was just thinking where I could sell it to get good money for it. But I'll go to that tomorrow then. Kevin, I think he can help me out." "All right, guys, thanks for the tip. I owe you one. So as soon as I get my money, I'll come straight to you." "Well, then we'll be waiting for you. Don't forget your friends." Christopher went home, and on the way he thought that tomorrow he would definitely go to Kevin. He knew where he lived and thought that he would definitely buy this thing from him. 3 months passed. Stephen drove up to Adriana's house and sighed. After Kathy died, Adriana had said right away that the wedding would have to be forgotten for now. Stephen realized that she was right, in fact, because it was no time to be happy. What saddened him was that after Kathy's departure, Adriana seemed to have lost the joy of life. Today, as soon as he entered the apartment and saw that she was crying again. "Adriana, well, that's enough of the heart-wrenching. You realize you're only making your mom worse with your tears. Besides, I remember you telling me that your mom didn't like it when you cried." "I know. I just dreamed about her again today, holding out her hand to me, saying something I didn't understand. Maybe she's calling me to her." "Oh, really? Did your mom love you that much? She would never have asked you to come with her. You know that. She only wants you to be happy. You probably just didn't understand her." At that time, the doorbell rang. Stephen looked at Adriana in surprise. "You're expecting someone?" "Yeah, it's probably Betty. She knows it's my day off. She's probably here with John to see me." Indeed, as soon as Stephen opened the door, he saw both Betty and John. Lately, he had become involved with the man, realizing that people were lucky to have him. He was a very kind man, understanding, and it was obvious how much he loved Betty. "Stephen, it's good to have you here. Adriana can't be left alone yet," he told him quietly by the door. "Betty goes crazy when she has a day off. She's afraid for the girl. How is she today? How long have you been here?" "Just about 10 minutes ago she was crying again. Said she was dreaming about her mom." "Poor girl. We'll cheer you up. Let's go to the country house. The weather's beautiful. I think you should get a little change of scenery. It'll do us all good." "I agree with you completely. As long as Adriana agrees, we'll talk her into it." They entered the room and saw that Betty was already talking to Adriana. They listened to the conversation, and there was nothing in her hand. No, she didn't. Besides, she showed it to me not palm up, but the other way around, and there was something glinting on her finger. And Betty wondered. She didn't understand what could be sparkling on Kathy's finger. Besides, what it could even mean. Then it hit her. She remembered their conversation when she was going on her date with John. And to that blue dress. "You won't give me your ring, you have it with the chauffeur. I mean, it would go perfectly with that dress." "No, I can't give it to you. It's a family heirloom that's been passed down from generation to generation. And when my daughter gets married, I'll pass it on to her. I hear your mother had a ring on her finger. Remember, with that blue sapphire. I always liked it very much. And your mother never took it off. She told me then that she was going to give it to you when you got married. You saw it on your mother's hand. Well, of course, she never took it off." "No, at the funeral. I saw it on her hand. I don't remember, Betty. Believe me, I didn't have time for that." I'm sorry, girl, that's not what I meant. The men listened to the conversation, and when John realized what they were talking about, they said she didn't have a ring on her finger. That's exactly what I remember. Everyone looked at him, trying to figure out where it might have gone. Adriana, why don't you look through Mom's things? Maybe it's in there. She probably wants you to wear it, but there's no stuff. You told me to give them all away so I'd have nothing left in the house. There's her costume jewelry and some gold jewelry, but it's still in a box in her room. Come on, let's go check it out. Maybe she put it there. And now she wants you to take it and put it on. They went into the room and took out the box. When they opened it, they realized the ring wasn't there. I don't get it. So she never took it off. Then where did it go? Maybe the hospital took it off her and then forgot to give it back to her. That's when Stephen stepped in. I remember when we took the body from the hospital. I remember the ring clearly. And then, when we brought her home here, I didn't notice it then. But I did, John said again, and I remember perfectly well that there was no ring on her hand. Everyone fell silent. Everyone was thinking about where the ring might have gone. If you think about what Stephen John had said, it worked out. The ring had gone missing right here, when Kathy was in the house, and when the neighbors were saying goodbye to her. How could that have occurred to her? It's crazy to steal a ring. My God, nothing is sacred at all. What are we gonna do now? It turns out my mom is telling me to find that ring. Is that what it looks like? How so? Where am I supposed to find it when I don't even understand or know who could have taken it in the first place? All right, girls, let's go to the cottage. I think we could all use some fresh air right now. And then we'll see what we can do next. John agreed. On the way to the cottage, they were silent. Adriana was the first one who couldn't take it. Betty, how are you doing up there? How's Christopher? I haven't seen him in a while. I don't know what's going on with my son. He's gotten a little weird and skittish. At night he screams and moans, but at least there's one thing I'm glad about. He seems to have stopped drinking. It's good that he quit. It's about time. He's a big, smart man, and he's gone downhill so fast. I'm sorry, Betty. It's not your fault, of course. It's just that sometimes boys really need a father more than a mother. But don't be nervous. I think it'll get better. He'll get your head on straight, and everything will be all right again. You don't think I understand, do you? Yeah, I think he needs a girl. He'll love you when everything falls into place at once. It's just a shame that no one will love him. Who needs him now? Don't worry, he'll recover quickly. The main thing is that he finally realized that it is impossible to live like this and that he needs to change everything radically. It was beautiful at the cottage. Adriana and Stephen went to the river. Betty said that they should take a walk while they were cooking dinner because both of them were pale and didn't want to eat. That won't do. And Adriana, try not to think about anything right now. Take a little rest, enjoy nature. You'll see you'll feel better right away. Good one, Betty. I do feel better. Come on, Stephen, to the river. It's beautiful there. They walked in silence, holding hands. The river was really beautiful. They sat down on the bank and looked at the water. It's true that growling is soothing. That's for sure. Listen, Adriana, I want to talk to you. Let's just move in together. I realize we don't have time for a wedding or any fun right now. What I propose we do is we apply and register. That's it. And we can get married later, whenever you want. I just want you to understand that I can't be without you. I want to be around you all the time. And when I think of you alone in the house all the time, my heart bleeds. Are you afraid for me? I feel fine at home. I'm not afraid of anything, because I realize that nothing terrible will happen. My mother loved me very much. I understand perfectly well that she protects me now too, as she did when she was alive. But I will think about your proposal. Answer I'll tell you tomorrow, well. I just don't feel like thinking about anything at all right now. Stephen did not argue. It was enough for him. They spent the day beautifully. In the evening, they decided not to return to the city, but to stay the night. They built a fire, sat around it, and reminisced. I remember Kathy was taking me out on a date, said at the time that I would succeed, that I was worthy of happiness. I didn't believe her at the time. I thought that at my age, nothing would ever work out. But she was right. I'm so happy, it's scary sometimes. I didn't even know Kathy. I realized then that she was a wonderful person. It's a shame she didn't have a decent man by her side. She loved my father very much. And when he left us, she realized she didn't need anyone else. We talked to her a lot about it, and she said that she had never met anyone like him in her life, and she didn't like anyone else. It's just that your mom was a one lover who fell in love with one man once and for all. Only he didn't realize it. By the way, did you ever hear from your father again? No, he never came back into our lives, and he never visited me. So I have no idea where he might be. To be honest, I don't feel like talking to him, because to apply a woman like my mom to another, well, only a man weak, maybe. Although, I could be wrong. But your mom would have accepted him. Trust me. Sometimes it seems to me that she waited all these years, only believing that he would come back to her after all. Christopher woke up in a cold sweat again. It wasn't funny anymore. Kathy was dreaming about him every night now. No, the dreams were not scary at all. But for some reason, Christopher felt very bad after them. At first, he couldn't understand. Why did he feel so bad? And then he realized. It was just a guilty conscience about what he'd done. Kathy asked him in his dreams to give the ring back to his daughter, but he couldn't do it. And tonight, he had the strangest dream of all. Kathy advised him to take the ring to an antique store. She said that if he did that, he would be fine. And then lastly, she said that if he did that again, his life would go downhill. Finally waking up, he drank some water and thought about the fact that Kathy had given him some kind of chance that he just had to take. He also remembered well her last words, that if he did that again, all was lost. And he had decided then that he would do exactly as she had told him. The right thing to do, of course, was to give the ring to Adriana, but he couldn't do that. He realized that then no one would understand him, and everyone would turn away from him. He clearly remembered the store Kathy had shown him in his dream. He had never seen it and thought it was probably just a fantasy, but he decided to check it out. The next day, he decided to walk a little and look for something similar in those antique shops that he knew he had already been to. But no one bought the ring from him, which, by the way, he was very surprised. He thought at the time that it was some kind of reservation, and after another refusal, he wanted to get rid of it, but he couldn't throw it away. He didn't realize where he was going. People were walking around, hurrying somewhere. He was walking, thinking that he must be going crazy. If he didn't find anything today, he would probably just go to Adriana and give it to her, and then whatever happens there. Suddenly, he was interested in an unremarkable sign that said it was an antique shop. He went in and offered the ring. They took it from him and gave him a very nice sum of money. He could not believe that he finally got rid of the ring when he left the store. He realized that now everything would be different for him, and that he would start his life anew. The image of Aunt Kathy flashed through his mind. She was smiling, and he realized that she was just helping him once again, as she always did. After Adriana had agreed to Stephen's proposal, he had perked up. They applied, and he then decided to buy a nice ring. Since they were now engaged, it took him a long time to figure out what kind of ring to get her. Adriana was generally indifferent to jewelry. She had told him then that she would wear only one engagement ring on her finger. But some feeling pushed him to buy her something unusual. He didn't know where he got the idea from. That day he was driving to work through the center. When the sign of an antique shop caught his eye, he decided to go in, even though he was sure he was doing it for nothing, because he probably wouldn't find what he wanted there. When he entered the shop, he looked around and realized that everything had turned out as he thought and decided to leave. But suddenly he saw something unusual. When he came closer, he saw a ring sapphires. It was beautiful. He liked it at once, though it seemed familiar for some reason. He could not remember where he had seen it, but he had no doubt that he had found what he was looking for. 15 minutes later, he walked out, smiling happily. For some reason, he thought Adriana would like this ring very much. Adriana calmed down. She didn't dream about her mom anymore, and she had a taste of life again. Recently, they had talked to Betty again and had come to the conclusion that they had probably buried the ring with Kathy. Understandably, everyone was upset that day, and it probably seemed to John at the time that there was no ring. You know, we were talking about it the other day, and he's not sure anymore. He says it probably was. It was just his head spinning. He could have imagined it. It's no big deal. I get it. My mom didn't tell me anything about it. She just knew it was passed down from generation to generation, but I didn't think she'd give it to me. Well, if that's the way it happened, it's okay. And I'm not mad at my mom. Yeah, that's understandable. Adriana, your mom wanted to live. She made plans. She thought she could still make it. Today, Adriana had guests at home. They weren't very many, though. John, Betty, Stephen, and his parents are coming. They decided to celebrate the engagement quietly, just as a family. Betty arrived early to help Adriana set the table. But my goodness, you're about to get married. Oh, that's great. I'm glad things are working out for you. Stephen is a very nice guy. I think you'll be very happy with him. I think so too. By the way, where's Christopher? Isn't he coming? No, he got a job, you know, on a rotational shift. He left. He calls me every day, says he likes everything, and that he'll come home soon, but not alone. He met a girl and fell in love. Oh, I'm so happy for him. I think he'll be fine now. He says hello to you and congratulations. He's very happy for you. And you give him my regards and congratulations. I'm very happy for him too. It's great when everything is good. Betty, thank you so much for not leaving me. You're like a second mom to me. If you weren't here, I don't know what I'd do. You don't have to say that, Adriana. You know you're the closest thing I have to a mom. I know how you felt when Kathy was gone. I felt it, too. It was very painful. Now let's talk about you. It's the kind of day you're going to stay at your place, isn't it? Yeah, I don't want to go anywhere. My mom signed this apartment over to me a long time ago, so there's no problem. And we don't need to rent now that we have our own place. You're right. It's nice to have a place to live. I've decided to give the apartment away too. Let him live there with his girlfriend. I moved in with John a long time ago. We're good together. Oh, I'm so happy for you. John is a very nice man. Soon the guests began to arrive, and everything was ready. Stephen was a little late, stuck in traffic, but he arrived soon after. It was obvious that he had prepared some kind of surprise, but he didn't say anything to anyone yet. After everyone sat down at the table and congratulated the young ones, Stephen smiled, stood up, and took out a box. Adriana, I know very well that you are not very fond of jewelry, but for your engagement, I have to give you a ring. I've been thinking and choosing for a long time, because I really want you to wear it always. And I think I've chosen it. Look at it. I think you will like it very much. Adriana took the box, smiled at Stephen, and opened it. But the smile immediately disappeared from her face. She turned pale and almost fainted because her eyes even got a little darker. Stephen grabbed her elbow, seeing how she had woken up so far. Adriana, what's wrong with you? You don't feel well. And Adriana couldn't get a word out because her mother's ring was lying in front of her. Betty ran over to Adriana to help her. And when she looked at the box, she almost fell too. She grabbed a chair and started to fall. This is when John joined in to help his beloved. No one could understand what had happened. Everyone looked at Adriana and Betty in surprise. When everyone felt a little better, the first question was to Stephen, where he got the ring. He explained in detail where he had bought it. He added that it had looked vaguely familiar to him at the time too. So it turns out it was stolen after all. But by who? How could this person do such a thing? Everyone had already decided to go to that antique store to find out the details and find that person. But Adriana refused. "Betty, why go anywhere? I don't need to go. Just let it stay that way. I have the ring, just like my mom wanted me to have. I don't want to know about the rest. I don't want to know about the rest. We don't know what will happen when we find out. Maybe it will only make things worse for all of us." After some thought, everyone agreed with Adriana. She was happy. She even felt relieved. After all, her mom really wanted her to have the ring. After all, family traditions should not be broken, and this ring should be passed on from generation to generation. Subscribe and click the bell. And the airport of a major German city brought a short woman into the crowded spaces of glass and concrete. Alarmed, she looked around and realized that no one was there to greet her, even though she had been promised. Confused, she stopped, not knowing how to make a phone call. She took a Russian-German phrasebook out of her purse. She turned to the policeman. But suddenly, she saw a tall young man approaching her with a blonde woman on his arm. Relieved, she sighed and walked towards him. The man spoke with a noticeable accent. "Good afternoon, Kathy. I'm very glad we've met. I'd like you to meet my sister. She's your future mistress." He nodded his head toward his companion and kissed the guest's hand. "Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Thank you for meeting me." "A little confused," I replied, Kathy. "Sorry I'm late." Michael's hands went wide. He picked up his suitcase, headed for the exit, and the women followed him. They got into a black Mercedes and rushed, it seemed, to our city, where old people walked along the streets without hurry, and young people kissed and embraced. Despite the fact that it was only the end of February, there were lots of flowers all around. It was as if winter had never visited here. "What do you think of our place?" Betty asked, and a smug smile appeared on her face. "A real German town. I like it very much." The guest answered enthusiastically. "Such old buildings are clean and beautiful." "We like it here too," said Smith. "Life is better in Germany, although sometimes it seems a bit too pretentious." The house of Barbara, whom everyone simply called. Betty, was furnished with elegant furniture. Everything here was a perfect testimony to the good taste of the owners. The waiter brought breakfast, salad, meat, and coffee. The guests involuntarily admired the well-groomed and delicate face of the hostess. Perfection of features, but could not determine her age. Her aura eyes, even while smiling, emitted a cold gray-blue light, peculiar to people of a very mature age. "It's a lovely day," said Kathy, meaning that everything was going well so far. She had come here on a business invitation and would now be working for this charming lady. After breakfast, they went to see the office in a computerized office where everything knew its place. Everything was provided for fruitful work. Kathy's eyes lit up with delight. "That's wonderful. Did you hire a good designer? We've worked hard for you. You will be not just a secretary, but my right hand. We are interested in connections with firms in Russia." Smith said inspirationally, "We hope that our firm will gain momentum with your arrival." "You're exaggerating. I was very anxious when I came here, but there is no way out." "Yes, your situation is difficult. My family's not so lucky. My husband and I worked in a factory, both with higher education, but the downsizing started, and we lost our jobs. My husband started working as a cab driver, and I became a stewardess. And then I quarreled with a woman on board an airplane, and I was fired immediately." "Yeah, that's terrible." "Who was the woman?" "I think it was my mother, but she had this weird reaction to what I said. You know, maybe I'll tell you about it later, but I can't right now." Tears came to my guest's eyes. "But you will. We don't insist. I understand," I said to diffuse the anger. It seems sympathetic, but in the eyes reflected unwillingness to listen to a woman. "But that's not the point. It's a shame my son was the victim of a $5,000 scam his wife put on him after the divorce. They had a little Dutch flower business, so his daughter-in-law charged him for the whole debt. You know, you can't make that kind of money here. It's hard, but we'll help you any way we can. Thank you, Michael. I don't know why, but on the airplane, I believed you. I felt you were a good man. We're already Slavs, brothers from the same root. Good. If that's the case, here's your first assignment, Smith said impatiently. Here are the papers. You work in any program. I know everything. All right, sit down. We'll do it all. You can rest when you're done. What do they say? I feel at home, but don't forget you're a guest. Thank you. You speak Russian pretty well yourself, the woman said. I got a degree from Moscow University. You graduated from Moscow University? Yes, law school. It was a fun time a long time ago. Okay. Goodbye, he said and walked out. Kathy looked around the room and involuntarily thought that people live. I'm on the 5th floor of a paneled house. For 20 years, the roof has been leaking. How many do not get along with him? All for nothing. The ceiling is stained. Went to the neighbors, offered to fold and set up a mansard over the house. But nobody wants to listen. And I mean, what's the money to build with if you can't afford groceries? Betty was bent over her papers and didn't notice Smith come in. He sat down. He looked through the papers. Is there anything wrong? Asked the woman, concerned. Everything's just as it should be. Thank you. You have one more task, he said. I want you to solve this case. He put the paper in front of the worker. I'll do it all. Solved it all. Everything's fine. But your eyes are cloudy. I'll get used to it. It can be fun. It's a lot of work. We're up and down from morning till night. Kathy, she washed the office window. The new boss asked her to do it. She looked out into the street where beautiful cars were coming and going. Opposite, there was a huge supermarket and a stall next to it. There, the fruit was displayed on the street, volatile. Bananas, sunny, shining oranges and tangerines fat. Large berries of blue and green grapes glistened, and fluffy kiwis were snoozing in small boxes, groveling apples. There were many more exotic fruits. Names and flavors Kathy didn't know about. It was like the Garden of Eden in every season. Anything could be bought. Smith entered the room, he said with a smile. Finally, there is a mistress in the house. The window panes are shining. I'm glad you like it, Kathy replied. I look out the window and can't help but admire it. How beautifully organized is your place. Patience and hard work will overcome everything. Kathy jumped from the table, jumped up, and grabbed her lower back. What's the pain? Do you need any medication? The man asked impatiently. It'll go away. How long have you had it? Yeah, I had a bad trip. I've been having some after flights. Tired or something? No, not tired at all. Tired of what? I have to work and work and work, so you don't get bored in a foreign land. All right, you asked me to do the dishes. Our assistant is sick. You know, things happen in a restaurant. You're gonna have to pick up the slack. I hope that doesn't scare you. Dishes, please. I thought you were afraid to work here in a foreign country. I don't think about myself. Son, saving a corpse. You've outlived your usefulness. How old do you think I am? 46. Germans at that age are just starting families, and we wait for retirement, and then we get ready to go to the other world. So young, you have to look at life differently. The humped man's grave will mend his ways. He waved his hand indifferently. Sounds good. I'll remember that. Kathy was washing dishes. The work was familiar and her hands were dexterous, but her face was already tired. A few waiters were scurrying back and forth, bringing dirty plates. Something straight to her. Too bad I don't know the language, she thought. Hell knows what they don't chirp about him. Maybe it's scolding, maybe it's bullying. How much longer am I gonna be here crying? No need to get angry. Be patient. Get over myself. Woman C waved a strand of hair of a dense forehead with a wet hand. Pondered for a moment. Smith appeared behind her back. asked her how she was doing. Kathy smiled tiredly. I'm fine. Michael, I need to call my husband to let him know I'm settled in. You can call. How much will I earn? First 5,000 marks a month, and then we'll see. That's very little, the woman said confusedly. That's net income without rent and food. I need to earn $5,000. Upset, she said. We understand. Everyone has their own problems. Barbara invites herself over for dinner. We'll be there in about 20 minutes. Thank you. The host walked out. The woman started doing the math. It turns out that I need to live here for 2 years to earn the necessary amount, and my visa is only for 3 months. What am I supposed to do? Don't panic. Maybe I'll figure something out in time. The waiter brought some plates. He looked surprised at Kathy, who was preoccupied with her own thoughts. He called out to her. She smiled, hustled over, taking the dirty dishes. Barbara, Smith, Kathy drank coffee from small cups, savoring the aromatic beverage. We had a lot of work tomorrow, Michael said, turning to Kathy. What can you successfully trade in Russia? Anything. And what is the most popular? The same as always, alcohol and cigarettes. We should think about a drink. Do you want wine or cognac? No. Short answer from my sister. Kathy, and you? Thank you. No. Then I'll have one to keep the ideas flowing. The next day, the work continued. Papers abounded. Kathy reread, recited what she had written. It seemed good that only Megard didn't pile up. The beatniks and Barbara came into the room. But things are moving. Work. We must reflect on the important things, Betty said. Listening to you. There was anxiety in the guest's voice. Michael walks around the room, weighs something, and finally says to hire you illegally. It's very risky, not only for us, but you could go to jail. Kathy looked fearfully at her hosts. Don't be nervous. If anything, you should know how to speak properly. You have to ask for it. What Kathy was wary of, you have to ask for political asylum. But when I get home, did a lot of yours come back? Barbara asked. Could I think about it? Think about it. If you don't, you'll leave with nothing. Warned her. I want to consult my husband. Asked the woman hesitantly. What the host said was terrible news. She dialed the phone number with a trembling hand. She heard her husband's voice. Hello, Rick, it's me. Hi, how are you? Yeah, same old, same old. Same as Sam usually is. Is Sophia big? Aha. How are you settling in? Nothing yet. My bosses suggest I ask for political asylum. I don't know what to do. Well, ask for it if you have to. You don't understand. It's a betrayal. Who are you betraying? Homeland. Don't be ridiculous. Somebody is a human being. You're too small a man to fear the country's retribution. But in that case, I don't know when I can go home. Why would you want to come back here? Replied the husband. What are you worried about? You just want to get rid of me. The woman said angrily. I didn't send you there. You made a mess of it yourself. Do you think I should ask for political asylum? Do as you see fit. The husband replied indifferently. My hosts explained to me that if I don't agree to it, I will have to return with nothing, and I will lose everything I spent on the road and visa. The trip was fruitless. I told you you couldn't be trusted. You say it's my fault. Why did I take off if I didn't make the terms clear? They promised me a lot of money. You know better than that, don't you? It's up to you. Bye. When Kathy heard the noise on the phone, she said disappointedly, It's called talking. What a terrible thing to do. What am I going to do? Go on this adventure? The imperious look of knocking down Niam pushed Kathy to the dreaded brink, and she still couldn't make up her mind to do something new, she thought. Nothing good. Consulted with her husband. So what? Nothing. Why? Is there no other way out? No. In that case, I have to accept everything. Although my soul doesn't accept it, Kathy replied, and lowered her tear-filled eyes. Michael drove Kathy to the office and handed her over to a policeman. She was led into the office, fingerprinted, and then offered to wash her hands and dry them under the Christmas tree. Passport. The policeman said something and walked out. "We have to wait," Smith explained. "The interpreter is coming, and I have to go. Don't be sad." The young interpreter, thin and clumsy, began to read the questionnaire. "Your first name, last name?" "Kathy." "Year of birth?" After the questionnaire, the police officers put her in a jeep and drove her away without explaining anything. She realized that now she was completely dependent on these people. Outside the window floated towns, which imperceptibly passed into villages with the same cozy cottages, red and typical roofs, stretched fields and groves. The pipes of industrial enterprises flashed in the distance. The terrain was flat at first. After that, there were hills, and the beautiful scenery was not at all pleasant. Kathy, she's depressed, thinking that she was being driven too far away from Smith, the only people she knew in Germany. The woman watched the speedometer with fear. The distance from the town where they were staying was steadily increasing. 200 million, 300,000, 400 kilometers. Behind a metal mesh fence stood several pink buildings, a camp for foreigners who had requested political asylum. Kathy was led through a passageway into an office where two clerks sat. The pretty damsel in distress took the camera in hand in a friendly invitation. "Please have a seat." She snagged herself under the lens. In a few seconds, the picture was ready. A full German woman with indifferent eyes behind her glasses pasted it on the pass form. "This is your document." She handed over the pass. "Thank you," Kathy replied confusedly. "Where do I go now?" "It says here." The room Kathy had taken up residence in was like a cheap hotel room with old furniture. She set her things down, looked in the empty closet and refrigerator, sat down on the edge of a chair, said to herself, "German paradise exists only for the citizens of this country, and people like me are superfluous." A feeling of sadness seized her soul. Tears came to her eyes, but she tried to calm herself. She took a photograph out of her bag and set it on the table. Her own eyes, those of her son and granddaughter, looked at her cheerfully. A woman's curiosity made her step out into the hallway, where she ran into a swarthy, dark-haired man and woman who said hello to the first and asked the newcomer, "Where from?" "From Russia," Kathy replied. "And you're good to be around." And there was envy in the woman's voice. "Why do you think so? Do you have any hope of staying here? The Germans treat you with understanding. Did you give them your passport? You should have hidden it for nothing. They would have issued new ones. I didn't know. We didn't know anything at first either." "Where are you from?" Kathy asked. "Georgia." "And how do you like it here?" "Nothing definite. We live in suspense, afraid of being sent back, afraid of everything. But there is hope. Few people are lucky. You have to be able to convince a German that you really need asylum. Otherwise, what's there to say? Are you allowed to go out in the city? Yes, but you have to come back at night. If you want to stay somewhere for a day or more, you have to inform your superiors. Do they give you linens, or do you have to have your own? They'll give you linens and dishes. Go over there." Third door from the stairs. Kathy knocked on the door and entered a room left by a white closet. At the desk sat the island and a German woman to whom Kathy showed the pass. The woman tapped on the computer keys and then handed out 2 bags with all the necessary household stuff, plastic utensils to a mop. With this goodness, the woman returned to her room. Kathy walked out the gatehouse, turned into town. The brick-roofed cottages glistened with new paint. The tips were decorated with flowers. You couldn't even tell if the flowers were real or artificial. It was February outside. She marveled at the luxury of the shop windows, fruit displayed unattended on the sidewalk. She was hungry, but she didn't buy anything. On the hill to the left was a church. Kathy went there. She decided to pray on an empty stomach. Her face was tense, wary, as if in anticipation of trouble. She climbed the steps, crossed herself at the entrance to the church, sat down on a bench, looked around at the white walls decorated with icons, and began to pray. Gradually, the tension was replaced by helplessness and self-pity. Tears ran down her face, bringing relief and peace. In the courtyard of the Kathy camp, passing by two young men, she heard them speaking in their native language. She said hello to them. "Hello, fellow countrymen." They responded in a friendly manner. "Where are you from?" "From Krasnoyarsk," Kathy replied. "And I'm from Moscow." "And my friend from Vyborg," said he, nodded his head in the direction of medium height. "How long have you been here?" asked Kathy. "Yes, bored," replied the blonde. "And how long does it keep here?" "Who's as lucky as you are? Some of them have been here for weeks." "In that case, we should get acquainted," a woman offered. "My name is Ethan." The blonde one said his name. "I'm Benjamin," said the other one. "How do you like it here?" asked the woman. "Not good," said Ethan. "No work. They're overstocking me with old stock. No one here is interested in my higher education." "What's your specialty?" "Mechanical engineer." "I'm a construction engineer, but you must have worked somewhere." "If there's old stock," Kathy noticed. "I worked illegally on a Greek construction site for almost 8 months. And then I got caught. Had to apply for political asylum. They'd brought me here. I only worked 3 days. My bosses didn't even pay me anything. They offered me to give up right away. They said they didn't want to get in trouble for your illegal work. And they lured me with promises." The woman said with resentment. "Everyone looks after himself first and foremost," said Benjamin. "You have no one to take offense at." "You're the one who came here," said Ethan. "How can I run away now?" asked Benjamin. "Across the river. There's a Pole who drives in Moldavia. A lot of them get here that way. They shouldn't come here. You can't get a black job here. Without work and money, there's no life," Ethan said. "What do you mean black jobs are illegal? We're not authorized to do that kind of work." As the group approached, a stocky Negro stared at the woman. "Hello, hello," he said, stretching his lips in a smile. "Hello, hello, more dasty stump and get out of here while you donkey." The Negro walked away disappointed, but he still managed to wink meaningfully. "What are you getting on him?" She was surprised. "He's a dangerous guy. Stay away from him." "What a conversation we're having." "What kind of life is such a conversation?" Benjamin summed it up. "There's a white woman coming from the gatehouse, a blonde in her 40s. That's Kelly. You two haven't met yet." "No. I'll introduce you." "Hey, what's up?" Kelly asked. "Here's the new girl. Nice to meet you." Kelly gave a friendly smile and turned to the men. "What are you guys doing today?" "We're going to look for a job," Benjamin answered gloomily. "Though I know it's a waste of time." "You're not looking for a job. You're looking for a bride," Kelly said. "All your problems will be solved at once. No German woman would marry a beggar. They're all about calculation. You women are lucky. The Germans marry you willingly. Are we so divided that we spend time together with you in the same palace?" Kelly smiled. "We'd go completely wild without you," Ethan said. "You're a comfort." The men said their goodbyes and headed into town, but the women stayed behind. "Have you eaten?" Kelly asked Kathy. "Not yet." A short Caucasian man with an intelligent face and gray hair walked by. He said hello. Kelly whispered an explanation to Kathy. "He's a professor who came to Berlin for a scientific conference and asked for political asylum. He's smart. He'll be able to come up with an important reason and stay here. And if the professor is scattered," Kathy said in surprise, "then we sinners have nothing to be embarrassed about. A man seeks where it is best. I think it's time we had a little refreshment. How's the food here?" "It's not very good. But Germany is a rich country, and Germans love themselves too much. So us commoners can eat what they consider waste." "You mean the dump?" Kathy wrinkled his nose with squeamishness. "Well, yes, almost vegetable stores at the end of the day put out clean containers of fruit, unfit for consumption by German standards. And fruit isn't poisoned. Everyone eats it. No one is squeamish. Isn't there anything else besides what comes from the dump? We get a hot lunch once a day and dry rations. Mostly canned food and 800 marks a month. Wouldn't it be good for you to get a job? Do you work? I don't need it. Why not? I have a German friend. He's divorcing his wife. We're getting married soon. He supports me. How long have you lived in Germany? 10 years. Kathy's face was horrified. Her heart ached. I wanted to go home to dear Russia. All 10 years illegally. Yes, I worked as a freelancer, cleaning apartments in Germany. And by the way, I won my Carl back. I cleaned their place too. I think it was his wife who reported me to the police. One day I was captured and imprisoned. I had to ask for political asylum. I don't want to stay here forever. I just need to make some money, Kathy said. You know, Kathy, to get a job legally, you need permission from the authorities to get it in our situation in 2 ways. Make up a plausible legend that you don't have a life in your home country or get married. Kelly, I'm an ordinary woman. I have no interest in the authorities. Besides, I'm married. You love your husband. I'm glad I do. I used to love him, but things evolved. You know, before you get a divorce, you have to weigh things up a lot. What are you talking to me about? I've outlived my time. I'm not a woman anymore. I don't need anyone. How did your husband feel about you going away? He doesn't seem to care. Maybe he has a mistress. He used to. Now I don't know, Kathy shrugged. And you forgave him? Kelly was surprised. I pretended I hadn't noticed. What brings you to Germany? My daughter-in-law put my son in debt. I rushed to save the child. I wanted to pay off the debt as soon as possible. As you can see, not with my luck. I was promised 20,000 marks. I met my boss on an airplane when I was working as a stewardess. For the sake of the children, our women are ready to make all sorts of sacrifices. Germans look at their descendants in a simpler way. And you and your German, what's your relationship? Close, Kelly smiled. Divorce in Germany. It's a problem. The procedure takes up to 3 years. How does he treat you well? Germans respect women. I go to see him on Saturday and Sunday. I'd have to visit Michael, who invited me to work and afterwards turned me in. Will they let me in? Maybe they'll let you in, but you don't want to break the rules. Look, what are we standing here for? Let's go to my place for tea, and then we'll go for fruit tonight. Thank you, Kelly. A girl with tearful eyes came out of the building to meet the women. What's wrong? Kathy asked. Is there anything we can do to help? No one can help us anymore. We've been turned down. When do you have to leave? Kelly asked. Within a week. That's final, Kathy said. She shook her head in despair and covered her crying face with her hands. The dining hall was self-service. The line would stretch for lunches. Kathy and Kelly were also here. Benjamin and Ethan came up to them. Did you girls get in line for us? Sure did, Kelly replied. The tall Negro waved his arms and shouted something. They're with us. No need to yell, Kelly reassured him. How's the work going with the boys? Asked Kathy. Empty. Ethan waved his hand doubtfully. I've got to get back. I won't make any money here, but I'll spend what I have. And the family's probably waiting. Kelly remarked. I don't know. My wife and I didn't get along very well. But my daughter's growing up, and I'm trying to do my best for her. They put their plates of soup, rice, side dishes, and sausage on trays, plastic cups of yogurt, and sat down at the table. Kathy sighed and wrinkled her nose. What kind of salty soup? I don't like that kind. The chef here makes this dish on purpose, so you don't have to ask for more, Kelly smiled. Benjamin, why are you so gloomy today? I'm hungry, we'll talk about it then. By the way, there is a case, we'll discuss it after lunch, Kelly suggested. Ayla, Ethan, Kelly and Benjamin left the dining room. The girls are invited for a beer, said Benjamin. Kelly answered with pleasure. They went to the next building. Benjamin had a chicken and skinned room. There were many empty beer cans on the table. The host, with one motion of his hand, sliding in the empty containers, set down 4 bottles of beer and invited a treat. Thanks good-naturedly, Kelly said. The stolen beer didn't stand well, Benjamin replied. Germans don't like thieves. Girls, I'll have some cosmetics. Maybe you can buy some. My German gives me cosmetics. Kelly refused. And I'm still too poor. Kathy said no. Too bad. I was really hoping for you, Kathy suggested. Does she have money? Kelly suggested. And I'll try, said Benjamin. By the way, Kathy is your countrywoman. Kathy said to Kelly from the beer and beer from the bottle. I came to Germany on an invitation to dance. In a bar, stripping and stuff. Now she's getting married, I think. Anyway, she's got money. I should meet her, Kathy said thoughtfully. We'll get to know each other. But she doesn't like to talk about her past. What's in store for all of us? Kathy sighed. We'll see, Ethan replied. Kelly and Kathy walked into the yard of the vegetable store and saw 2 large plastic containers. Bananas were piled in them. According to Kathy's impression, they looked good. Only some blackness had been removed. Do we have decent bananas at the market for $1 a piece? Kathy remarked. The Germans are very careful about the quality of their food. There's a dark spot. It means the banana is rotting and not fit to eat. Didn't we know where to look for good food? Kathy smiled, putting bananas into a cellophane bag. You can make a good life. Where are you from? Tbilisi, beautiful city. The best city on earth. The women, engrossed in conversation, did not notice that a German came out on the porch and hissed squeamishly. It was all right. Kathy looked up, met the contemptuous look, and asked what he said. Let's go. And let him suppress with his bananas. Angrily, Kelly said, I'll take you to another store. Kelly served tea and brought bananas. The women were united by their unsettledness, though hostess and guests smiled at each other in a friendly way. Sadness wrapped their eyes as well. And they could only talk about what they were most concerned about. I came here to earn money, but I have to sit behind a fence and wait for manna from heaven. Kathy complained. I don't call home. I don't know what to tell my folks. Do you need to get a job? Where am I gonna find a job when even men can't get a job? Let me talk to the foreman, Kelly suggested. He's sympathetic. Can you work as a painter? I can do it. I always do my own repairs at home, answered Valia readily. He heads a team that does small repairs. That would be great. And how could your legend come up with anything? The Germans need a certificate. Where do I get one? So you're gonna sit through the return. Kelly warned me. What can I do? You have to think. Come to your friends. They might be willing to help. I think we should go. Michael said to Kathy calmly. Who would have thought it would happen like this? It used to be that papers were done quickly, and people started new lives. What am I going to do? The woman asked confusedly. Don't be nervous. Our contract remains unshakable. Go back. The job is waiting for you. What if I get rejected? Well, that would be bad luck. But let's hope for the best. I'll call you. Thank you. I have to get back. Don't worry. Kathy, be patient. The woman returned to the camp. She was depressed that the circumstances were so bleak. She looked out the window at the foreign land with sadness. The manicured fields of the city's settlement floated by. At one of the stations, a not young man and woman entered. They were talking to each other in Russian. Where are you from? Rejoiced? Asked Kathy from Russia. Smiling, the woman replied. We are from the Volga region. Long time in Germany. 9 years. You speak Russian all the time. It's a habit. The man replied. How do you like it here? But we miss our homeland. The woman replied. We have friends and relatives left there. And how are you in Germany? I came for 2 weeks to earn money, but I turned into a prisoner. All immigrants go through this now. Be patient. The woman comforted Kathy. The German punctuality didn't work out. The train is late, the man remarked, glancing at his watch. How alarmed Kathy was by 5 minutes. I'm not going to make it to the next train. I'm not lucky. Don't worry. The man got up, went to the end of the carriage and returned with the conductor, explaining to her that the woman was late for the next train. The conductress smiled, replied something and made a soothing gesture. Your train will be delayed for a few minutes. It will come. Shouldn't you be upset? The man translated what the conductor said. Is that really possible? Kathy asked in surprise. And here it's customary to do one's best for one's own sake. Have you managed to get a job? My husband works as an electrical engineer at a substation, and I'm retired, the woman replied. Do you regret leaving this place? I have different thoughts, but I don't want to go back to begging. The train stopped. Kathy said goodbye to her companions and jumped into the car. The country no longer seemed so alien and hostile. The clouds outside the window of the room floated to the east. The woman watched them sadly. They're coming home to us. What am I doing here? She took the photograph that stood on the nightstand by the bed and began to talk aloud to him. Vitalik, my dear son, how hard was it to raise you? So painful was angina, bronchitis, and inflammation. A good boy grew up tall, handsome. How I want to help you, but I can't do anything. I'm sorry. And you, granddaughter, I'm sorry your grandmother is such a loser. She wiped her tears, looking into the faces of her son and granddaughter. There was a knock at the door. A swarthy boy stood behind it and said hello in Russian. Can you help me? All right. What's wrong? My mom's sick. Kathy locked the door, followed the boy into his room, and saw a young brunette on the bed. Hello, I'm your son. Thank you for coming in. I'm Christina. Please sit down. Kathy sat down on the chair, slipped the boy's name, and said my name. Nice to meet you. I noticed you a long time ago. You're beautiful. What beauty? Are you sick? Yes, sciatica. We're poor. Please take my William with you when you go bananas. I will. Thank you. Where did you come from? Kathy asked. I married an Orthodox Christian from Azerbaijan. I changed my faith when my husband died in a car accident. I couldn't bear to live. They say that everything passes, Kathy said. The saddest thing is that I can't get rid of the bad luck. Come and play outside with me all day long. The boy was happy and slipped out the door. Your son is kind, obedient, attentive. She praised the boy. And the child is like a child. I didn't want to talk about him. I was going to Germany to get married. I met a German and went to visit him at his invitation. But he didn't like us. He looked at how much we ate. And the boy is growing up. He has a good appetite. He needs to eat. I had to come here. But my nerves didn't hold up. My spine ached the next morning. I took some painkillers. I'm waiting for my father's pain. I'm a doctor myself. I know that spinal pain is not something to be trifled with. If you need help, you call me. I warned you. Thank you. Will you please look after your son? What if something happens to me? Christina asked. Don't worry. Let's hope for the best. Do you have children? One son is grown up. I envy you so much. Did you get to raise your son? You know, little babies, little squirrels, and big babies, big babies. I'll be sure to take your William if we go bananas. Don't worry, it'll be fine. I'm good with kids. I already have a granddaughter. Kathy and the boy were returning from the store, carrying cellophane bags of fruit on this clear day with a short spring sun and a cloudless sky. The foreign town lives with its own worries. The boy looked around curiously with appetite, eating a banana. Why do the Germans throw away such delicious bananas? He asked. They have too many bananas, and they don't have time to eat them, replied the woman. Lucky me. And do you know that today is the first day of spring, and after that it will be summer? Do you like summer? Summer is hot. I like fall. That's when the mountains are golden. I like to paint them. Do you miss the mountains? Yes, very much. There are mountains in Germany too. We used to go with Uncle Peter. When I grow up, I'll buy a car and we'll go to the mountains with my mom. You have a wonderful mom. You have to help her so she doesn't get sick. I'm doing my best. That's what my dad taught me, but he's gone. Don't be sad. You'll grow up strong and smart. Everything's gonna be okay with mommy. Kathy showed the pass at the gatehouse to Shakhtar, and walked with the boy to the yard, where she saw an ambulance. "Something's happened," she said. "Someone is sick," the boy replied. A woman was carried on a stretcher to the car. The boy rushed to her screaming, "Mommy, Mommy." Christina hugged her son and said sternly to William, "They are taking me to the hospital. Wait for me and don't go. Alone in the city, you hear? I forbid you." "Okay, Mom, what's wrong with you?" asked Kathy. "You went, and I tried to get up, and I realized something bad had happened, and I couldn't get up. Good thing a neighbor came by to check on me, so I called a doctor. I probably would have died from the pain. Let William stay with me." "Thank you, Christina. I've already made arrangements with the neighbor. Her David is a little younger than my son. They're friends. The boy will stay with them." "Thank you very much. Mom, I want to come with you." Through tears, my son asked. "Son, be a man," strictly said the mother, kissed her son goodbye, and she was taken away. The boy exclaimed, wiping his eyes with his palms. Authority, the woman took his hand and led him away. Kathy stared at them confusedly. She felt responsible for the boy's fate. "Hi," Benjamin said to her. "Why are you so upset?" "Yeah, they took the women to the hospital. She had something wrong with her spine, and the son is left in the care of strangers. Things are bad, but you and I are still alive and well. I have a bottle of champagne. Let's go to your place and dispel the sadness." "Where could you get champagne?" "Where I got it. Where I got it. I made it." "Good master. Let's go get some champagne. Pour it into plastic cups." "To us," said Benjamin. "Did Kathy fix it for you?" "No, just to us. Here's to you, making this your last stolen bottle. You got something to talk about. Let's have a drink." Kathy tasted the drink and said it was delicious. "It's bitter to me," Benjamin objected. "What are you implying?" "I'm lonely. I haven't been with a woman in 100 years, and you're so beautiful. Do you know how old I am? I'm not interested. Real women have no age." Benjamin tried to hug Kathy. She said, "Don't, Benjamin, because it makes me want to howl with despair." "In that case, let's have another drink." Benjamin sat down on the floor and sang the song, "I've been looking for you everywhere." Then he took a bottle of perfume out of his pocket and gave it to the lovely lady as a little present. "Thank you. I don't accept stolen goods. Don't insult me. This perfume was advertised today by some company. They were giving it away for free. I took it, thinking of you now, thinking of you a lot." Benjamin wrapped his arms around Sutton's waist and knees and fell silent. The woman invited his hair, something wrinkled on the top of his head, and asked Benjamin, "I'm in a nasty mood. Let's forget everything from the heart." "No, we never talk about it. My son is almost the same age. What Slavs lack is stiffness. Be well, Benjamin, you'll have everything. Women and children. Just be careful of foolish temptations." "Kathy, you look a lot like my mom. You look younger, though." "Where does she live?" "In the country, where women age faster from hard work. We civilians love ourselves more. It's a pity you don't love me. In a brothel, it costs $100. "Benjamin, I can't listen to you. Take an example from Ethan. Behave yourself." Benjamin's face lit up with mystery. "I get it. Ethan, do you like it better? I'm a cold old woman. I don't need anything. I'll go. Maybe she'll understand me." Benjamin went out. Oleg looked bitterly out the window, then went outside. Ethan walked across the yard towards her. "Kathy, where did you go?" he asked. "To church. Was Kelly looking for you? Do you know why?" "Go see her. What about you?" "A woman asked me." "I'm sad. Be patient. Don't give in to depression. Everyone wants to stay here, but I'm trying to return to my homeland. As you can see, there's a significant difference. Don't get upset. You'll get rejected and go back to your home country. I bought a car. It's parked in Hamburg. I have to pick it up and get out of here." "Leave the address," Kathy smiled. "I will. I'll write down your phone number and address. Will we meet sometime?" Ethan took a pen and notebook out of his prized pocket, wrote down the necessary information, pulled out a sheet of paper, and gave it to the woman. "You're going home. Give me a warning." I asked Kathy. "I will. Good of you to stop by." Kelly was happy to see me. "Kathy, Ethan told me you were looking for me. I talked to the foreman, and he promised to hire you." "Really happy?" Kathy asked. 30 marks an hour will do you good. It's a bit of a gamble. Inactivity was killing me." "Thank you, Kelly. You've made me very happy." "Yeah, good. Hey, have you heard from Christina?" Kathy asked. "Did she have spinal surgery, and how did it go?" "But it seems fine. Maybe she'll get lucky on this one." "Poor woman. What can you do? Women are condemned by God to suffer from birth. We have to put up with it. We do have more suffering, but we also have more joy than men," Kathy pointed out. "It's getting warmer outside. It's spring. We hardly ever have winter here. When it gets warm, I'll have nothing to wear." She bitterly remarked she'd found a problem. "I'll take you to our mouth to find something to wear." "Where to?" Kathy asked again. "I'm not going to the dump. I'm squeamish." "Stop wondering. There are good things there. You can find a TV or other appliances. We're not arrogant. We've got Uncle Rockefeller Kelly pushing a noble lady to the dump." "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you." I interrupted my friend Kathy. "I'm not the offending type." "Okay, I agree just out of interest to go for that. As you said, fought," reminded Kelly. And so they set off. The now familiar professor showed up. He said hello. "Hello, Professor. Did you have a good trip?" Kelly asked. "Very much so." "Good luck to you." The women turned to the hole in the fence, climbed through to the latitude area. "Let's go under the shed. There are bales of clothes there. They won't swear at us. If anything, we'll apologize, saying we got lost." Kelly replied with a laugh. There were indeed large bags of clothes under the awnings. The women began to pull out and look at jeans, triple-decker sweaters. "How did I get you in this?" Kelly to her chest a sweatshirt with yellow and brown stripes. "Tigress, and you're about this approximately." Kelly threw Kathy a colorful dress. "Oh, that's something gypsy. Too bad we don't have a mirror. Next time we'll bring a mirror." Kelly laughed. "Look, men's jeans. Maybe they'll fit my husband. I guess they'd be like brand new." "I told you so." Kathy bent down. As Kelly sorted through the clothes, she was more careful. Every now and then she glanced toward the building where the guards were. Hearing a sheepdog barking in the distance, she fearfully said, "Run." "What's wrong?" "Sheepdog." The dog was already flying towards them. The woman grabbed the selected clothes and rushed to the iron. For a moment, the barking died down. Kelly looked back and saw that the sheepdog was rapidly approaching and shouted, "Kathy, hurry, we won't make it in time, it will tear us apart." The sheepdog growled. They dropped their clothes and ran as fast as they could. The women managed to jump the fence but kept running. The sheepdog accompanied them with frantic barking and outside the fence. The next day, Kathy went to work. There she decorated the wall in red overalls and a cap with a large visor. Valak M. Valak swung from top to bottom, painted the gray wall in light lettuce color. In the evening, she passed Schachter's windows. He stopped her, a handsome young man, smiling. Kathy did not understand what the German said, but she herself smiled back. In the yard, she saw William and asked how your mother was. "Nothing. She'll be discharged soon." The woman found 2 chocolates in her bag and gave them to the boy. "Thank you," he answered and immediately began to hastily unfold the paper. "Aunt Dasha is listening now. But David is sick. They won't let him go outside." "What's wrong with him?" "His throat." "Will you miss me? Come and visit. Someday." Kathy, slim and beautiful, came out of the entryway and said hello. "Hello, Kathy. I've been wanting to chat with you for a long time. We are countrywomen talking how and what." The girl replied ironically, "Do you miss home?" "I want to miss it. My home is where I live better. I'm a child of the planet. I miss you very much. I have a son, a granddaughter. How old is your son? 25. Well, he'll live without you. No, Kathy, children are always children, no matter how old they are. I'm used to being on my own. My father left me when I was 2. I've never seen him since. My stepfather and I didn't see eye to eye. I always wanted to get away from home. My father has his life. I have mine. At least you call them once in a while. On the big holidays, they say you're getting married. A sham marriage is the surest way to stay here. I suggest you do the same. I'm married. Is that a husband? That can't provide you with a decent living. That's our life. Parenting is stupid. Marriage is like eternal slavery. We should respect ourselves and seize the opportunity if we've already managed to get out of it. So we know what we need, sighed Kathy. I always know. Goodbye, replied the girl and walked towards the gatehouse. Kathy took one look at her and shook her head regretfully. Already from such a young age, the girl had to get away with it, lie, enter into a sham marriage. How could one keep one's soul under such circumstances? The woman went into her room and sat down at the table, wondering if I should have gotten involved in this adventure. I could live here. A foreign language I don't know. A foreign land. No feelings all this evokes in me. I must help my son, but at what cost? There was a knock at the door. Kathy opened it, surprised to see a janitor from the gatehouse on the threshold. He entered the room, stopped, looked at Kathy. That is Scene Frost, he said with a smile, putting his arm around the woman's shoulders, their libido there. Kathy smelled the pleasant odor of expensive deodorant that the German man's clothes smelled like. The janitor. Released from his embrace, she said sternly. Is that what you all say when you're courting? No love at all. Let's be friends if you want to be. Liebe nicht freuen mich. The German raised his eyebrows in surprise. He was swarthy with correct facial features. Handsome. Knew it, so he showed self-assurance. Kathy. Warum? The guy spoke German fast. Why? Why, Kathy? Kathy shook her head and pointed to the door. The janitor was very surprised by her refusal. However, he tried to hug the woman again. She shivered, spoke quietly and clearly, again pointing her hand at the door. Benjamin Kathy, escorting the German to the door, muttered angrily, "What do I need all this for?" He finally realized that he was finally being rejected. He said goodbye and walked out with a bewildered face. When the door closed behind him, Kathy crossed herself. Save me and keep me safe. He can get me out of here. I'm dependent on everyone here. I should talk to Kelly. Why are you so green? Kelly asked Kathy to let her into her room. Something happened. And this asshole from the watch offers love, said Kathy indignantly. What are you thinking about? Have some coffee. Calm down. And calm down here. You refused such a handsome and young German. Kelly laughed. Do you think I should have? I don't think anything. It's just that cunning women in your position take every opportunity. Kelly, I can't do that. But you said no, and you did the right thing. I don't think he really loves you, and he's gonna get back at me. I don't know. I don't think so. You must still love your husband, don't you? With that unapproachable lamb peeking out at you. My son is almost his age. You're silly. Men age quickly. Women should always know how to use their attractiveness. That's sacrilege, Kelly. People live and enjoy themselves. You've buried yourself alive. I'm living without money, without papers. It makes me want to howl. And then there's these men and their lust. Kathy, you've got it all wrong, don't you? A man 10 years younger than you sees your beauty, decides to help you through your loneliness, warm you up with love. And you into what happened? Why, Kelly was surprised. I have no love, no mood of ill health. What's wrong with your health? Live, started to get very sick. Food doesn't fit. Could be the food, could be your nervousness. You should see a doctor. What about work? The foreman. Let you explain it to him. I'll be patient for a while longer. If it doesn't stop hurting, then don't take too long. Yes, I'm afraid of that janitor. Do you want me to talk to him? Kelly asked. No, don't. Cell phone rings. Hi, you're home already? Overjoyed, said Kathy. How are you? Oh, thank God, I'm fine. I have another joy. We got permission to stay. Good for you. We're leaving. If you settle in well in your new apartment, I'll invite you to visit. Thank you. Happiness to you. Oleg was painting the wall. The roller swung from top to bottom, evenly covering the surface with paint. The tall guy who was working immediately put down his roller, came up to Kathy, and handed her a chocolate bar. Danko woman shook her head negatively. I don't eat chocolate. The man put his arm around her shoulders. Kathy abruptly broke out of the embrace and ran to the side and indignantly shouted, Only come over. I'll ask you to eat green. She held out a roll in front of her. At this time, Kelly walked in. Asked with a laugh, Kathy, are you trying to increase the Green Party? No, I'm fighting sex-crazed crocodiles. Did you hear Ethan died? Ow, Kathy asked, scared. He was driving a car and crashed. Some say he fell asleep at the wheel. It's a shame about him, such a young and handsome man, and a family left behind. Such is our life. It's scary to live alone, and it's even worse to die alone. We have to. Ethan, I have an address and a phone number, Kathy remembered. So you call. I can't. How can you report something like that? No. Kathy, think about it. Ethan's dead. He needs to be buried. And the family don't know anything. I can't do it. I don't have the guts. You can't betray Ethan. Okay, I'll try. Kathy, I flipped through my address book, found the entry, dialed the number, heard a woman's voice, said hello, and asked if it was Christina. Yes, I'm calling from Germany to tell you about Ethan's husband. Something's happened. I'm sorry for your loss. Kathy struggled to get the words out. Ethan was killed in a car accident. Ethan, don't joke around like that. I'm sorry, I'm not joking. Ethan was a good man, he loves you. Daughter was in a hurry to get home. Drove the car, and they say he fell asleep at the wheel. Vanya's sobs were heard in the phone. Christina, you should definitely come here to take care of Ethan's funeral. Yes, Kathy sobbed into the phone, barely able to keep from crying. She lowered her voice and said cruelly, Stop crying, Christina. You need to think about yourself and your daughter. Ethan, waiting for you here. Aya, I'll do anything. You know the address. Yes, Ethan wrote to us. Come, we'll be waiting for you. Goodbye, Kathy, she hung up. She'll be here. You're good. I couldn't do that. Kelly complimented her, and I was lying on the bed, flipping through a phrase book, memorizing German phrases. There was a knock at the door. A woman opened it. Benjamin came in. Why are you so sad? He asked. Ethan is dead. Don't make things up in a drunken voice, Benjamin said. I understand. It's April 1st. It's not, Benjamin. Ethan drove the car and fell asleep. And that there is no Ethan anymore. Holy shit. What the hell kind of life is that? It's a shame. It's a shame. Kelly and I called his wife. She promised to come to his memorial, Benjamin said, and put a bottle of wine on the table. Kathy pulled a few cans of canned goods and fruit from the refrigerator. They drank and snacked. He and I had a nice sit-down the night before his trip. He wanted to see his daughter as soon as possible. You don't have a family, so you bear the separation from your homeland more easily. I have a mother who often dreams about me. When I came here, it was like falling into an abyss. I don't dream about anything. At home, I had colorful dreams every night, like a movie. It's your husband who's giving you the energy. I don't get any energy from him. We've been sleeping in separate rooms for 20 years. Why is that? Yeah, it just happened. When I saw you, I thought I was divorced. Is there something so independent about you? I'm not independent. I'm just a slave in the family. I never thought people would get that impression. Kathy, you make such an impression on me that I'd do anything to please you. Benjamin, I'm nice to you, but don't count on it. You're just messing with me. Enough of this idle talk. Kathy stopped him. Right? Yes, let's drink to the most beautiful woman in Germany to you. Don't lie. I know I'm old and unassuming. You just don't understand anything about female beauty. Benjamin reached out for a hug, and she pulled away. And with the bridge. Ethan, the wife, promised to come. It's a pity for everyone. And you too. You don't live, you exist. Such a woman is a queen. Benjamin lowered his head doomedly. I don't want anything. I just want to pay my son's debt, and then I'll be retired in no time. Retirement. I know what my mom's pension is. We've been robbed of our future, so I'm stealing. To spite the whole world, I'm an extra. Don't you love me? What are you saying? What kind of love can you and I have? We're going our separate ways. I've had it all. And you've just started a life. Kathy resented you. What can you know about the future? There may be my one and only beloved, and nothing else. Ethan has his destiny. You have yours. Go away, Benjamin. It's early in the morning. Kathy turned on the light and began to clear the table. Benjamin stood at the door and said, I'm going to a friend's house. She invited me for coffee. He glanced at the woman, as if to see if she was jealous. She smiled with a smirk. Benjamin jumped out. Kathy was habitually waving a brush, painting a wall in the cafe room. Suddenly she stopped, holding her stomach. You Felton? Sympathetically asked his partner. Yes, worried Kathy. Looking for the right, said in German that she felt a little ill. Kelly appeared on the doorstep and called out, Ella, Ethan. His wife is here. She wants to talk to you. I don't get off work until 300. And Christina's in a hurry to catch a train. What about Ethan's anxiety? Kathy asked. They gave her the ashes in a small urn. Is she crying? No, I think she'd cry all her tears. Why don't we ask the master for you? Kelly suggested it. Try telling him I need to see a doctor. I'm finally going to the doctor. Yeah, I can see I can't put it off. All right, let's go. Kelly knocked on the door and entered the handyman's room. Kathy waited, thinking regretfully that she had a hard time with German, so she couldn't use it fluently and had to find translators. After a few minutes, Kelly came out triumphantly and announced everything is fine. You are free for the rest of the day. And the master has also offered you a new job. What kind of job at the cafe? What am I supposed to do there? Making coffee for our bosses to drink during the break. And afterwards, when everyone goes out, you'll help with the dishes. I think coffee smells better than paint. That's great. But will I be able to please him? Kathy said she had her doubts. You will. You can start tomorrow. Thank you. You're my guardian angel. It was you who conquered the master with your hard work and diligence. Christina was waiting for the women near the gatehouse, sitting on a suitcase. A large bag stood next to it. I brought it in. Kathy, Kelly said. She's the one who called you. Thank you very much, said Christina, taking a step towards Kathy. I'm sorry to interrupt you from your work, but I'm in a hurry. My train will be here soon. I'll see you off, and you, Kelly, know. I have to meet Carl. The women headed for the train station. Kathy and Kelly had dinner together. Why aren't you eating? Kelly asked. I had a diet check with the doctor. What's the diagnosis? Ulcer. I'm gonna have to eat more. Eat bananas, canned goods. You can't cure an ulcer. I like bananas. Let's hear it. I'm going out with my German on Saturday. Maybe you want to get checked out with me. I'll tell him to bring a friend with him. Why would I do that? There'll be good food. Nice people. You will. I don't know how these Germans will eat themselves up. We'll sit and talk and go our separate ways. It's interesting to see other people. Okay, but please, no matchmaking. I don't like that. Come on, no one's infringing on your precious independence. Al Jazeera poured coffee into the coffee makers, set the tables, clean, with tablecloths, wiped the cups, looked around the room. She was pleased. The clerk came in, smiled, and praised the goodness. "Thank you. Coffee's ready. I can go now." "Yes. What kind of coffee?" "Okay." Kathy smiled and hurried out. "How was work at the new place?" Kelly asked. It seemed fine. She went to the first one, tasted the coffee, and praised it. "It'll be easier for you here." "Thanks, Kelly. I'd be dead without you. And with my low blood pressure, coffee is a must. By the way, we've already been invited to the restaurant for Saturday. Our friends are eager to meet us," Kelly said. "I'm a little embarrassed." "It's gonna be great. You'll see how Germans respect women. She comes to you, brings you a bottle, drinks it herself, and then demands payment in kind. But not everyone is like that most of the time. I understand that poverty has made everyone lose self-respect. What kind of a beggar is a gentleman? But we are rich in soul, and we have only soul capitals left." Kelly said mockingly. "Look, your customers are already drunk with coffee. I'll go and wash up after them. It's so warm outside." Kathy sure smiled, her eyes glistening in the bright sunshine. "Soon it will be summer. It's beautiful in the mountains now." Kathy on the porch at the cafe was waiting for the bosses. It was obvious from everything that they were satisfied with the coffee. She walked into the empty cafe, put away the dishes, poured herself a cup of coffee, and sat down at the table. Next, she said they liked it. They offered to buy the coffee and thank you. "Are you ready?" Kelly peeked through the door of Kathy and the room. "Yes, come in," Kathy answered, hiding her excitement. "Show me." A woman of deep, marvelous beauty stood before Kelly. A long-sleeved black dress was gracefully built up along the bottom. Stanu's russet details and hair was loose for the first time and cascaded marvelously down her back. Delicate gaze, fluffy eyelashes, clear, soft skin. What gave her away was not a woman with a grown son, but a young girl, a beauty. "All Germans are yours." "I'm not comfortable, Kelly. Keep your tail between your legs. We're the most beautiful and intelligent woman in the world." "I see. Installation." "I'll give it a shot." "All right, everybody. Let's go." The wheels clattered, the train rushed, and Lina rode towards the unknown. Sometimes they talked about something insignificant. "Do you love your Carl?" Kathy asked. "If I didn't love him, I wouldn't be dating him. It took me a long time to choose." "Do you know Germans well? How are they different from our men?" "Germans are not shy to talk about what they feel. Besides, German women know their worth, so their husbands realize that love must be earned. Our men die mostly at a young age because they drink and smoke a lot. More lying on the couch in front of the TV." Kathy supported her friend. "Men in general are fickle. Or did he go somewhere else? Or the other one ran away? A woman can't afford it because she's attached to her children. We're approaching. Look, there's our beau over there. How do you like them? How can you tell at once? My friend is a turtle." The women rushed excitedly to the exit. "Here we are," cheerfully said Kelly, kissing Carl, the dark male innovator and rather tall guest. That's how the men said hello. "Let me introduce you, Mrs. Kathy," said Kelly, playfully looking at the German and her friend. The men kissed Kathy's hand and named themselves. "Carl, Friedrich Angel. Nice to meet you too," Kathy replied, looking up at the tall, thin Friedrich. She felt uncomfortable next to him at a height that was only slightly over 1.5 meters. "By the horses," Kelly said. "No, wait," Kathy stopped her friend. "Let's go and look at the timetable. What time is the evening train? We asked for 2 days. I want to be back tonight." "You're on it straight, aren't you?" "Yes, I know the timetable from memory. There's a train at 20:30. Ok." Everyone got into the car, which Carl drove with Kelly next to him. Friedrich and Kathy were in the back seat. Kathy tried to look out of the window, as if she were too attracted by the scenery. Finally, the car stopped outside the restaurant. Friedrich got out first, walked around the car, opened the door, and gave Kathy his hand. Next, he pronounced MT. She thanked excitedly, feeling the warmth of his hand. As they climbed the stairs, Friedrich supported Kathy. At the table, they found themselves opposite each other. Tay was very shy. There was very little of him. Kelly, translate, please. I'm sorry, Mr. Friedrich. I don't know the language, so it's very difficult for me to maintain a conversation with you. Kelly translated. Friedrich smiled and answered briefly. Friedrich says he understands you well with his heart without words. Kathy shyly thanked the still feeling and herself at someone else's party. Kelly leaned over to her and mouthed tacky, "Stay away. He eats you with his eyes." When they left the restaurant, Kelly said, "Friedrich is inviting us to his place." "No, I'm not going." I said, "No. What's the big deal? We'll have coffee, sit and talk, see how people live." "Kelly, don't talk me into doing whatever you want." Kelly approached the men, explained to them that Kathy wanted to go home, and immediately turned to her friend. "They are very sorry to see you leave. We'll take you to the train station." "Translate, please," Kelly asked Kathy. "I had a good time with you. I thank everyone sincerely." At the gatehouse, Kathy saw Benjamin looking threatening. Kelly went to see the Germans. "What's it to you? I'm the first one in." "Why? Is there already a line?" The woman asked sarcastically. "Allah, I love you." "That's enough, Benjamin. What kind of love can there be under these conditions? I understand with the Germans, the conditions are different. They invite you to a cottage. Benjamin, you have no right to humiliate me." Kathy was indignant, and at that moment she saw the attentive eyes of the janitor who had recently confessed his love to her. "Let's get out of here. All our women are looking at us corrupt. It's men who invented this system of existence, where gold and paper money are considered the greatest value. What's there to be offended about? I'm offended that you don't believe in my feelings, but are you interested in my feelings? Or do you think a woman has no right to choose? And I want you to choose me. I don't want anything, okay? I've been married for 26 years. I've seen nothing good in this life, but hard work at the factory and at home. And now I'm here trying to solve the family financial problem. And my husband and son are waiting for me to make money and give it to them. I owe everyone around me. And now I owe you. What kind of brother are you to me? A brother-in-law. There are devils in a quiet swamp. You're drunk. Don't get mad at me, or we'll quarrel. I drank out of grief, you know. I hid my passport in my pillow, and they found it. Now I'm facing rejection. Do you realize that?" Benjamin shouted. He put his arms around Kathy, pressed her against the wall, and kissed her. "Get off." Angrily, she said. "I'm not clinging. A shadow will follow you." "Boy, you don't make people laugh yet." As she was mopping the cafe floor, Kelly came running in. "Hi, Cinderella." "Hey, how's it going?" Kathy asked. "Did Friedrich like you?" "He's divorcing his wife, by the way." "What could he possibly like?" "We didn't even talk," Kathy shrugged. "Men have their own understanding." "What about him?" "Nothing. Attentive and good-looking. Just very tall. Carl told me that Friedrich likes women as small as dolls so that he can carry them in his arms." "That's right, but so does everybody. Yesterday Benjamin almost raped the horny tribe. Saw him all beat up today. He was drunk," said Kathy. "Said he got into a fight with somebody. He's a badass." "Let's go out Saturday," said Kelly. "Our dates want to see us." "I don't want to." "What's wrong with it?" "I'm fine. I'm just embarrassed about myself." "Don't make it up. Think about it. Saturday's a long way off." "Okay, I'm off." Kelly walked out, and I wondered what he hadn't found for you. God, what a man wants. They're all the same. The girl shook her head and brushed that heavy Russian braid off her shoulder. She looked out the window and saw a strange woman in the yard. Next she said to herself, "Oh, here comes the new girl. Maybe a countrywoman is carrying us around the world. We have no refuge. We've lost ours and gained no refuge." Kathy walked through the town. She passed a familiar church she frequented. She went to a shoe store. She tried on a pair of high-heeled shoes, The not young salesman looked at her feet with delight, handed her the shoes, saying her head would light up. Kathy, with signs and words, which she remembered from memorization, explained what kind of shoes she needed, showed what high heels she wanted. "Good, Kathy, good," replied the salesman. "Give the woman shoes." Finally, Kathy chose expensive black shoes with very high heels, trusted them, and it was as if she had grown up. "After all, the price?" she asked. "Finn Feinberg, 500 marks. Kathy looked at the salesman confusedly, but after a moment's thought she waved her hand and paid the money for the purchase. Kathy, as usual, had lunch with Kelly. This time they were in a small room, quite OBG that you know. "Our suitors are preparing a surprise for us," Kelly said. "What kind of surprise?" "How should I know why you're seducing me? You know I'm a weak and curious woman. I'm not eating. I'm giving you a chance to have an interesting time on your free days instead of sitting here. You've seen for yourself that these Germans are decent people. They work at a company that makes transformers. They earn good money. They're happy to do something nice for us. I've noticed, Kelly, that they treat us nicely and with respect. I don't regret coming with you at all. Then put aside your self-importance and agree to ride with us on Saturday." "All right, we will," Kathy promised. "I can make Friedrich happy that you will," Kelly clarified. "You can. Carl said that Friedrich is very impressed with you, so shocked. No one has ever seen him before. And I've prepared for the new meeting," said Kathy. "How I bought new shoes. Show me." Kathy pulled a box of shoes out of the closet. "Chick," raved Kelly. "And hundreds of stamps. Aha! But they're worth it. Worthy." Kathy, with shoes, walked across the room, majestically beautiful. "Great. In those heels you can look down on Friedrich." Kathy took off her shoes and became small again. She said, "I don't know how to do anything. Kelly, even though you've been married for so many years, I'm afraid of these games. In short, dark, I am nothing. All clear and just be yourself. I don't need anything more from you." A beautifully assembled Kathy and Kelly walked out the front door. They were greeted with flowers by Carl and Friedrich. There was another couple with them, a tall basketball player girl and a stocky man, about 40 years old. They said hello. Kelly told Kathy to meet Clara and Helmut. "Nice to meet you." Kathy gave her hand first to Slaga, and after Helmut, Slaga was invited by Friedrich as an interpreter. "For 2 days, this couple will accompany us so you won't be bored," Kelly explained. "Thank you," said Kathy, shifting her gaze from Clark to Friedrich. Finally, they got into their cars. Kelly and Carl drove separately. Friedrich sat behind the wheel of the second car. Next to him, Kathy, Clara, and Helmut took the back seat. The cars stopped outside a large store, where even the windows seemed to emit expensive odors. "Men invite us women to choose cosmetics as gifts. What anyone likes," said Clara. "Thank you. But I don't need anything," replied Kathy. "TZ Orbit?" asked Friedrich. "Kathy, men want to make us feel good. There's nothing wrong with that. A normal sign of attention, which does not oblige to anything." Trying to indoctrinate her. "I can't take the gift. I'm sorry, Clara, I'm so badly brought up." "Okay," said Friedrich. Kathy shook her head. Her gaze was so unbreakable that Slaga waved helplessly and plowed out of the car. But immediately Kelly ran up to the car and began to coax you. "What are you hiding? Let's at least go and see the goods." Kathy realized she was holding up the group. She got out of the car and headed into the store with everyone else. The windows shone for left many bottles with gold stoppers, colorful boxes, tastefully decorated with amazing artificial flowers. All this delighted and charmed the women. Friedrich asks what you want to buy. Turned Clara. "Nothing. And please do not address me with such questions again." Friedrich silently and coldly walked beside her. Kathy took a glance at the store and went outside. Kelly and Clara came out with happy faces. They were discussing something animatedly, carrying brightly colored packages. "Look, we have real French perfume," Kelly said excitedly. "I'm glad you found gifts to your liking." Kathy smiled back. There was no envy or resentment in her eyes. The group crossed the street and headed for the grocery store. Friedrich walked beside Kathy. He pushed the cart in front of him, from time to time, asking you, "What I want to buy, I don't know," looking at the sausages and hams, at canned fish and vegetables, shrugged. Then Friedrich began to put supplies of his own taste into the cart himself, also calmly passed by confectionery. Only in the fruit department she could not resist, stopped, pointing with her hand to grapes, peaches, and bananas. Gut, rejoiced. Fry began to fill the cart with fruit. Their car was rushing along the highway. Kathy glanced at Friedrich's hands, which confidently controlled the car. She looked ahead at the road, but with a corner of her eye, she still watched his face, pleasant and concentrated. We stopped near a small restaurant. The group entered, sat down at a table in a deep, cozy alcove, where they were invited. Music was flying, where they could relax and talk. Kathy was seated next to Friedrich. To her right sat Clara as a translator. Pour champagne. The first glass to the women. Carl said a toast. Kathy clinked glasses with Friedrich and other participants of the feast. She bought wine and snacked on chocolate. I didn't feel like eating or drinking. It was nice to feel that there was a man sitting next to her who was looking at her lovingly. Something had finally shifted in her heart. A sudden and yum feeling came over the woman. Friedrich is a good man. I've been his friend for a while. I whispered in his ear, Kathy, Clara. But at that time, he was just getting a divorce, and I needed to get my life together right away. So I latched on to someone else because he was single. And you're still on good terms with Friedrich? Yes. What's the big deal? We didn't fight. I just made my choice. How nice for you and Helmut. But I still like Friedrich, she admitted. How did you get to Germany? Asked Kathy. I came here legally from the Russian Germans. Carl announced a new toast to freedom. Friedrich asks what to drink, said Kathy. I have champagne. Answer and wine. I don't care. So why don't you get your wife a gin? What kind of gin? I don't drink. An ulcer. Friedrich was gentle and attentive. He made sure Kathy's plate was never empty. He put appetizers and salad on it. They hardly spoke at all. And when they had to ask something, they used the service of an interpreter. Friedrich is inviting us to his place, said Clara Kathy. And Kelly, she's going to Carl's. What should I tell Friedrich? You agree. And do you think I should go to him in indecision? Kathy asked. He has a lovely house. We can go to the mountains in the evening. It's so beautiful there now. Friedrich waited tensely for an answer. Kathy caught the rapturous gaze of all the men and agreed under the combined attention. I agree. Clara translated her answer, and everyone was satisfied. There was laughter. They raised their glasses again. Friedrich's house stood on a hill. At the edge of the settlement, a lantern was burning above the entrance. Clara and her companion went to the porch. Friedrich lingered by the car, which he had driven into the garage. Kathy wanted to look around, but it was already dark. She walked slowly up the steps and suddenly saw a firefly in the grass. He glowed firefly-like. Kathy exclaimed in surprise. At that time, Friedrich caught up with her and stopped beside her, trying to understand what she was saying. The firefly is right there, she said. Friedrich laughed, and that carefree laugh of his seemed to bring Kathy closer to his soul. Without words, they could understand each other together and rejoice at such a small event. What do you have there? Maybe a treasure dug up? Asked Clara. Firefly is here, said Kathy. Did you find something to be happy about? Slaga replied indifferently. Friedrich's house was large and cozy, and the furniture was so rationally chosen that there didn't seem to be a single superfluous thing. On the walls hung several landscapes. Russia, said the host, pointing to a painting and explaining something to Clara. This painting Friedrich bought from a Russian artist, the translator reported. The painting showed a swamp with cats, frozen trees axe over a shiny black eye. From native landscape, The native landscape made my soul warm. There is a telescope in the same room. Kathy wondered. Can I see it? I've never seen the sky through a telescope. Friedrich understood without an interpreter what his guest was asking. Beat, 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 he said. Thank you, replied Kathy. Through the telescope, she saw many lights on the black velvet, and the sky shiny and mysterious. It was as if the stars had gotten closer, magnified, shone brighter. They called to her and promised happiness. Friedrich invited the guests to the table, but everyone was full, so they drank only light wine. Kathy again felt Helmut's insistent gaze on him. She lowered her eyes. The host said something to Helmut. Clara translated. Friedrich asked Helmut not to look at you with such lust. Kathy smiled gratefully at Friedrich. It was the appreciation towards her master that she now felt. His tact and restraint impressed her. Helmut turned on the tape recorder, inviting Clara to dance. It was an old, slow tango. Friedrich bowed his head in a bow to Kathy. She put her hand on his shoulder, and he led her so easily, as if they had danced together all their lives. She thought involuntarily that if someone had led me like that in my life, how well I would live. When the music stopped, she looked at the clock and was surprised that it was already 0 o'clock and time was flying. I didn't notice how the day flashed by either. Thank you all very much. I felt relaxed and good with you. Please translate, Dahlia asked. Friedrich kissed his guest's hand gratefully. Helmut and Delia stayed the night on the first floor, and Friedrich took Kathy upstairs to a bedroom with a wide bed. Populated with a pale pink bedspread, the curtains on the windows were of the same fabric, as if seen Frau had said Friedrich should good. What does he thank me for? What does he praise me for? Wondered mentally Kathy, feeling an unusual warmth in her chest that developed throughout her body. She answered the jar. Thank you. Friedrich smiled, hiding the tension. He asked something he shouldn't have voiced out loud. Kathy was silent, looking into his eyes, trying to understand his feelings and translating the words she heard from the German, "We will sleep together." Then she answered unnaturally, stretching her arms out to her father in return. Together, and Friedrich's eyes lit up too lighter behind the face shone Danko my liebe Frau. He exhaled, embracing her for the first time, and kissed her on the lips. Kathy, for shy, hid her face. Friedrich released her from his arms, looking at her hesitantly. No, I'm not judging. It's okay. Kathy thickly mouthed a quick Kathy and asked for a shower. When she came from the bathroom and sat on the bed, she didn't know how to act. I picked up a magazine, started flipping through it. Well, she was brooding and staring at one point. Maybe pretend to be asleep. Why? I like him. When I got married, I wasn't interested in any man. Suddenly, it's as good as it was when I was young. A cautious knock on the door brought her out of her daze. Come in. Kathy invited her in. Friedrich appeared on the threshold with 2 glasses of wine on a small tray. 1 glass handed Kathy offered to drink. Thank you, Danko, she replied. Friedrich sat on the edge of the bed, sneered with his glass with Kathy, said a traditional German toast. All the more reason to be well, she replied, tasting the wounds with the pleasant flavor of wine. Very good. Thank you. Thank you then. I am happy. You speak our language. Why didn't you admit it before? I memorized a few words. Kathy drank the wine slowly and looked at Friedrich. The wine is wonderful good, she said. You are wonderful, Friedrich replied, taking the empty glass from her hand and kissing her hand. His lips moved down the forearm of their neck with kisses, finally rose to her chin. A hot wave of wine flooded the woman's face groggy, but turned on in her head, and she lunged toward him in the heat of oblivion. Kathy felt next to Friedrich's big heated body and whispered helplessly, I'm afraid of pregnancy, afraid of baby. Baby and baby. Hurry up and get married. Friedrich laughed, substituting her for himself. In the morning, Friedrich treated the guests. Everyone drank coffee with scones and sandwiches. What are the plans for today? Slaga asked. Friedrich answered her something, and she immediately translated his words to Kathy with a poorly concealed resentment in her voice. Friedrich said that he no longer needed an interpreter. "He speaks a little of our language. We understand each other," Kathy replied. "I've never heard him say a word." The interpreter was surprised. "He learned Russian at school. He must have spoken out of love," Clara replied jealously. Miracles, indeed. The car raced along the winding mountain road. As it climbed up, Kathy looked over the green mountain slopes, then looked happily at Friedrich. He, too, would turn his head to her for a moment now, and then cast a brief amorous glance, and drove the car farther to feel him closer. She put her hand on his knee. His face lit up with a smile. With one hand he drove the car, and with the other he put his hand on Kathy's arm, and tenderness overflowed in his soul. They stopped near an old stone church. "Orthodox?" asked Kathy. "I," answered Friedrich. They entered the cool semi-darkness of the church. Small candles were burning at the icon of the Mother of God. It was empty and quiet, as if this temple with its solemn silence existed only for them. It would be good to get married in this temple. Suddenly thought Kathy, "I am married, but not married." The car circled again along the winding mountain road. The marvelous scenery was changing rapidly. Every bush and tree was in bloom. These were the days of general blooming. However, Kathy and Friedrich were so engrossed in each other that they wanted to hide with their happiness in a quiet place from the world. They were taken in by a small restaurant. Stone, not stucco, on the walls of which were decorated with deer antlers. Each table was screened off from the neighboring table, and the bold partitions gave the impression of a quiet corner like a cave or grotto. The waiter brought soft drinks, game, salad, and fruit to the table. Kathy didn't want to eat. That had only happened to her when she was young, when she had reached the feeling of falling in love. She realized with pleasant surprise that she was in love and looked into Friedrich's eyes. He was happy. There were two warm fireflies burning in his eyes that expressed love and tenderness. Friedrich embraced the woman and kissed her. In the evening, they sat in Friedrich's study on a wide sofa. Kathy leafed through numerous color albums with reproductions of prints and paintings by famous European artists. "How rich is this?" the woman said enthusiastically, pointing with her hand at the albums and books. "You are the wealth, and this is all yours." Friedrich smiled and kissed her. "It's all mine." "No, I only want you. My father loved the Frau from Russia. Your father was in love with a Russian girl." "So what?" "After, she was taken to Siberia, and they never met again." Friedrich reached over to the shelf, picked up a large German-Russian dictionary, started looking for the right words. "You be my wife?" he asked. "Officially, I'm married. I tell my lawyer not to do anything. You will be our wife." "Yes, I understand. Mine or Frau, my sunshine." "Thank you, Friedrich. You brought me back to life. As a woman, I was dead. I cared only for the happiness of my son and granddaughter. You don't know, I'm a load of babysitting wisdom. You're my little girl," laughed Friedrich. And Friedrich, "All you have to do is laugh." "I love them. I love them. I love you," quietly she answered. "Only I'm scared. 3. That this fairy tale of ours will one day suddenly end. Because we belong to different states. Now I know what paradise is. It's when two hearts in love meet." Friedrich said something. She did not understand, stopped him at half a word with a long and greedy kiss. Monday morning, Friedrich himself brought Kathy to the gatehouse. They said goodbye tenderly and lightly with the hope of meeting again soon. "Thank you, Friedrich, for everything. I'm happier now than I've ever been. See you at the bank, my beautiful Frau. Love you." Kathy hardly got away from Friedrich and went to the gate. She looked back. Friedrich stopped at the car behind Kathy and Friedrich. Both Cindy and Lisa were watching from the office window. They were conversing in German. "Those Russian catfish. Soon all our men will be taken apart with anger and contempt," said Lisa. "He seemed to have a real crush on her." "Not without envy," said Cindy. He's a man of integrity, and judging by the car, wealthy. Men have a stronger penchant for sex than prudence. Soon you won't find a real pure German all over Germany. The odds will be stacked against them. Everyone should live carefully, Cindy objected. Let everyone live where he was born. Then there will be order. Lisa said that mixing blood is a useful thing. These Russians themselves don't color our breed. I'll do everything I can to get her rejected. Kathy brewed coffee in the cafe, preparing the tables, smiling at her thoughts. Cindy entered the room, stood and watched, and afterward Mademoiselle said, "Do you know how to eat well?" "Good afternoon." "Yes, I agree," nodded her head Kathy. Come on, God willing." Cindy poured herself a cup of coffee, drank and lauded the delicious coffee. "Delicious. Maybe when you get married." "No, ma'am, I'm already married," replied Kathy, trying to stop the unnecessary and empty conversation. "I have the tables ready. May I go now?" Yes, please." Kelly entered Kathy's room and from the doorstep asked how you were not disappointed. "I fell in love like a girl in my 20s. "Good for you. That's the way to live." "Carl said that Friedrich likes you too. We went on a business trip to Berlin for 3 days. Friedrich didn't say anything to me. He didn't know they'd been unexpectedly sent there on something urgent." "Did you have much success?" "Friedrich is thinking of a plan to take you in. He told me he'd consult with his lawyer." "I can hire a lawyer." "You don't need to," Kelly argued. "One here invested so much money in a lawyer. He didn't want to go back to Abkhazia, but he was turned down anyway. Friedrich has his own lawyer. It's more reliable." "Kelly, but I'm married. I asked my husband for a divorce. How am I supposed to tell him that?" "I explained to him very simply that you have to get a sham marriage to stay here." "I'll think about it." "There's nothing to think about, nothing to put off. Let's go now." Kathy was dialing her home phone number. Her fingers were shaking. Kelly stood nearby and encouraged her friend. "Calm down. Get your head together. Just say it head on. It'll be easier and more likely to be true." My soul doubled in size, but it was necessary to overcome herself and pretend that nothing had happened. She heard her husband's voice on the phone. "Hello." "That's what I said, Kathy." "Oh, hello. Some friend of yours called, but she didn't explain. I'm guessing it's Christina. I haven't heard anything new yet. Everyone's alive and well. Will you be released soon?" "I don't know, as long as I'm working. But it's not money. It's tears. It's pathetic. You know, Cole. In order for me to stay here, I'll have to enter into a fake marriage with a German." "Where will you get a German?" "My acquaintances marry for a small fee." She promised to arrange a fake marriage for me. "You won't mind. Do whatever you want. But to do that, we have to get a divorce." "Divorce? I'll call you later and let you know what to do. Hijack and kiss Kara." Kathy hung up the phone and said ironically, "Got a marriage license from her own husband to marry Friedrich. How do you like it?" "It's fine. Did you get what you wanted?" "Happy?" Kelly stated. "You know, when you get down to it, my marriage to Sam has been a sham for a long time. We lived and put up with each other. There was just nowhere else to go." "When did it start?" "When he came home from work. He even named his granddaughter after her. Thought I had no idea." "Kathy, you're so poor. You got one Friedrich left," said Kelly. "I didn't have anyone else." "Did you forget Benjamin?" "Don't give me Benjamin." "I'm kidding. Benjamin was taken to jail, caught stealing." I warned him so many times." "Too bad for the guy," Kathy said regretfully. "It would have ended this way sooner or later. Such is fate." Kathy waited impatiently for Saturday. She was learning German phrases, preparing tender words for Friedrich. Every spare minute she gave to this occupation. There was a knock at the door. Kathy opened the door and saw the servants. "Mrs. Kathy, have you received a refusal? You must take your things and move out." Kathy looked confused, not wanting to believe what she was hearing. "Go where?" she asked. It's not for us to decide. Mademoiselle, I can't just leave. I have to make a phone call to consult with Friedrich. Mrs. Kathy, it's time to pack quickly. No, I'm not going. What's the hurry? Quickly, quickly, come on. Or the policeman might arrest you. Cindy was in a hurry, and Kathy began to pack her things in doom. The police van took a long time to get there. When it crossed the border into Holland, Kathy realized I was being taken to the country where I had a visa. From there, I must return home. How could I warn Friedrich? Only happiness began to smile on me. How did everything suddenly come to an end? The minibus stopped outside a two-story building. The policeman who accompanied Kathy led her to an official's office. An interpreter was called, who informed her, if you don't have money for a ticket, we can deport you. I'll buy the ticket myself. You are alone in a foreign country. We'd like to make your temporary life easier. There's a women's charity organization here in town that helps people like you. We can introduce you to a representative. They'd be very grateful. The interpreter led Kathy into another room where a pleasant young woman sat at a table. I'd like you to meet Miranda. Kathy shook the woman's hand, gave her name. I invite, will you? My guest is smiling, said Miranda. The woman's eyes were sympathetic and eager to help. Kathy thanked her and felt lighter in her heart. Do you want to buy a plane ticket? Miranda asked. Yes, here's the money afterwards. What else would you like? I need to make a phone call in Germany. Please. Miranda slid the phone closer to Kathy and walked out. Kathy anxiously dialed Friedrich's home phone number. He wasn't home. The answering machine went off. She said a few simple phrases that she could leave unspoken. That she had been taken out. Asked him to write to her. Gave her address. At home, Miranda introduced Kathy to her twin son, Cinny, and a white-haired boy of about 7. That's my son, said the Dutch woman. The boys were playing with the computer. They nodded their heads in greeting and turned the monitor screen again, paying no attention to the strange aunt. Such random women must have gotten in here quite often. They walked around the rooms of well-groomed, womanly hands. Bright and cozy, Kathy praised enthusiastically. It's a terrific house. Very beautiful. You're a marvelous hostess. Is this your room? Said Miranda. Opens the door to a large room, and the bath is across the hall. Relax, dinner's coming soon. Thank you, Miranda. You're very kind. I thanked her sincerely. Left alone, Kathy went to the window, looked down at the neatly trimmed lawn, at the flower bed of roses, at the old tree under the window. Everything reeked of stability, calm, and harmony. For the first time in many years, I met a man I loved and needed. Why were we separated? I could run away to him. Yes, run away. But then I'd have to live illegally. Friedrich would get in trouble for me. You can't do that. The law is the law. You can't be guided by homeless impulses. I must return to my homeland. The homeland is like a mother who welcomes us, maimed and traitorous. If Friedrich loves me, we'll meet again. But now I am forbidden to visit Germany for 5 years. 5 years of days of loneliness. My God, we can meet in Russia. She walked across the room, went back to the window, looked sadly at the sky. Someone almighty was judging her fate and determining the share of happiness she deserved. Familiarize yourself, please. This is Thomas. My husband, said Miranda, introducing Kathy to the young man. Athletic build. He was buying a ticket for departure. Tomorrow night. Thomas, show you the city. Thank you very much. I've brought you so much trouble. It's no trouble at all. Thomas doesn't know your language. He eats taciturn. I'm not very talkative either, thankfully, Kathy replied. The car drove her through the streets of beautiful and clean Amsterdam, and from the roofs of the old buildings, glass and concrete of modern neighborhoods coexisted in marvelous harmony and were a delight to the eye. Thomas was trapped. Only occasionally he would point his hand at some notable building. Kathy didn't always have time to realize where she should be looking, but the car kept going. The panorama outside the window was changing rapidly. I can see why they're fiddling with me, the woman thought. They are protecting themselves and their country from strangers and people who are not needed here. Every nation should take such care of its homeland. The Dutch are also willing to share kindness with people from other countries. This kindness does not humiliate or hurt me. They understand, forgive, and help. This is what can be called humanity. The airplane accelerated on the runway and rose into the evening sky, covered in clouds. Kathy looked down. The city hung with many lights. There remained Miranda Thomas and their two their sons. They were just a random episode in her life somewhere. Friedrich. What about after the plane rose above the clouds that covered the ground like huge snowdrifts? Kathy looked out the porthole and thought the clouds looked very heavy and solid. But that's a deception. They are as ephemeral as our hopes. In a few months I had lived another life, and suddenly it was over like a dream. The woman tiredly closed her eyes. She must have fallen asleep when she looked out the porthole again, saw her native expanse. The heart fell into place. When she arrived, she divorced her husband and even inherited her mother's apartment. That is, strange women on board the airplane, who hysterically screamed at the entire cabin that the stewardess almost killed her and instead of a photo card saw a knife. It turned out that the mother was in treatment for a long time. Then she came out to Kathy when she was in Germany and managed to write off her inheritance. Kathy even went to the cemetery, took the same picture to the grave in the cemetery. It started here and ended here. One day she heard a persistent knock on the door. Her heart hammered in anxious, joyful anticipation. She opened the door and behind her stood Friedrich with a bouquet of fire lilies.